Welcome to Arcade Attack. A retro gaming podcast for up to 4 players.
Sonic Boom!
Hello and welcome to the Arcade Attack podcast. My name's Keith and I am joined today by Dylan.
Hello, Keith.
Hello, Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
James.
How are you, my friend?
I'm very good. You?
Not so bad. Put the mic back down then. Yeah, not so bad. I can't grumble. I could do, but it wouldn't get me anywhere.
Good.
He's not showing any signs of infection.
So... That's good.
No, I'm not twitching.
Not yet.
Not clicking.
Good. And Adrian.
Yeah, part of the furniture.
Yeah.
Always
Had to say, didn't I?
Yep, definitely.
Now, I've gathered you all here today to talk about a game that how many times have I mentioned it over the years?
Too bloody many.
Once or
Many
twice.
times.
More times than Troy Aikman, I reckon.
But as we're hurtling towards episode 300, there were certain things that we probably all thought, we must talk about that before we finish. We must talk about that. And one of those, for me, was The Last of Us. It seemed like an appropriate time as well, given that the HBO show is currently airing. So I finally got the time to sit down and do it. So here we are. The Last of Us, developed by Naughty Dog and published by Sony Computer Entertainment.
Love it.
In 2013.
Bah.
10 years now.
No, I don't believe you.
Thus
10
is
years
retro.
ago. Yes.
That is retro.
It's retro.
And if you don't think it's retro, get in the bin.
Get in the bin. Yeah, so it was released on the PS3 in June 2013. And then it was released on PS4 in July of the following year, 2014.
Was that a remake almost? Or
It was a
remastered?
remaster for
but
PS4.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. But yeah, it was a remaster. So before we delve into it, what's everyone's experience of the game? So I'll give you mine in a minute. Dill, what is your experience with The Last of Us?
So Keith got said remaster for PS4. And I had a PS4 at the time. I was like, well, oh yeah, this is going to be good. Lending me Keith. He's like, yes, Dill, you do this. And then I started playing it. And then I died. And then I died. Couldn't work out the stealth, couldn't work out anything, just died. All the time. Died. And I was like, I threw it at him. The other day, I was like, you have this back. I don't want this. I don't want none of it. And then Keith was like, another great idea from Keith, because he's full of great ideas. He's like, Keith, I have to sign up PS Plus. PS Plus is fantastic. It's money well spent. Oh, thanks, mate, for this one. But 1 month discounted Last of Us, a digital copy. It was like £6. It was like £6 or £7 or something. I'm like, come on, mate. Let's just give this one more whack. So I put my £6 on the line, and yeah, nice.
So when roughly do you reckon that was?
That would have been when I went back in just before the pandemic.
So
that would have been like
2018,
2019, something like that.
Okay.
And then I only bought 2, like last year, maybe. So
yeah, that was because it came out
cheap.
2020, I think. Yeah,
I got it cheap on eBay. So
Nice.
I was like, oh, even nice.
So you've now played both, have you?
Now played. Well, I'm not very far through the second one.
Okay, well, we're not going to talk about that really
No.
today, so
No.
that's fine. That's fine.
But yeah.
Okay, so you played it all the way through. That's good. Adrian's what's
story.
your experience
Oh,
with The Last of Us?
Humdinger of a story.
Humdinger?
I don't want to be rude.
So
Keith,
early in my podcast,
such a big story. You might as well switch off your mic. Everyone just make a cup of tea.
Oh, wow.
He hijacked mine at 10 minutes. Yours is about 3.
Yeah, about 3 minutes in. It's good.
No, in all truth, I don't have much to say about The Last of Us, but because of you over there, and I'm pointing to Keith.
Hello.
I know that you're a massive fan of the game. I've never owned a PS4 or a PS3 actually randomly, and my brother Mike had a PS4 at the time, and I was like, oh, what do I buy my brother Mike for his birthday? And this was a few years after, so I was looking through, thinking, I usually get him silly novelty, like coding mugs, like, why is Java not working, and crazy little mugs. Oh, he's got so many mugs now. I bought it. I can't get him another mug with stupid coding.
No room
rubbish,
left in the cupboard.
coding memes on it. So I thought, he's got a PS4. The Last of Us was on discount, like on sale on Amazon. And I quite like Amazon when you just literally put their address in. I changed the address saying, from Mike, I say, Adrian birthday present. So I don't have to even pay for it. Just straight to Mike.
Nice.
And I bought him The Last of Us.
Nice.
And a few weeks later, after his birthday, I went to his house and I said, Michael, what do you think of The Last of Us? He said, I haven't really played it yet. I haven't had time. Well, I said, well, let's put it on then. So he put it on.
Yeah.
And I all I remember of the game is me in a rowing boat, I think. And is that right? Am I talking rubbish?
Rowing boat?
At the start of the game, running away from something. Am I
Rowing boat.
some sort of boat scene? Is there boats at the front start?
I'm struggling to
No, I
picture
mean,
any
Keith's going to
boat.
talk us through the game here.
Yeah.
So the rowing.
The rowing boat scene. Yes. You saw
The famous.
That's my
It's the most famous scene.
I
The
think,
rowing boats.
it was dark anyway. It was dark. I think there's water involved. Maybe rain. It might have been rain.
maybe rain or a boat.
But that's what I remember. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was running around and I was
Nice.
confused. And I said, Mike,
Clearly.
I can't play this. You play it when you can.
There were people
And that
involved.
was as far as you saw the rowing boat.
Yeah. And did you ever? We should have found out Mike's impression of the game.
Yeah, I
Did you
should
ever
have,
actually
yeah.
played
I
it?
don't know if he's even played it properly. There you go. Maybe. I don't
Adrian
know.
was playing Jurassic Park on the SNES.
Well, maybe text your brother and ask him. James, what's your experience with The Last of Us?
I'm almost certain, and please, if anyone's out there that can feed back to me that is in the same boat, no pun intended. But I'm probably in a very, very small minority. So just very briefly, I used to have PS2, Xbox, etc., and I went to what many consider the dark side. I went down the Xbox route, got the 360, loved all the games, and then got an Xbox One. So I never played The Last of Us at all. I didn't know anything about the game at all. I literally, all I knew was like the two main characters' names, and I knew a really bare bones thing about the story, like infection and whatever. I was like, okay, survival horror game, etc. That was it. That was literally it. I knew nothing. I never even looked into it. Which that's kind of how little I knew about it. So. I mean, I'm going back probably, and we're talking about the series being on now. I watched the series actually a few weeks after it came out and started watching it before I managed to get my hands on the game, thanks to Sir Keith a lot over there, because he lent me his PS4 and the copy of the game, the remastered version. And I've been playing through the game at the same time as watching the TV show, which for me is... like, it's a lot of information to try and kind of take in. But it's so interesting seeing the differences between the game, the TV show, how they've had to kind of alter things a bit because certain things just wouldn't work on the TV show. And I'm sure I've got several points on that. I'm sure we're going to go through
We will, yeah.
all of that kind of meat on the bones. But, and also I've got a reference, obviously big fan of the show, good friend of mine, Steve White. He's a massive fan of the game.
Yeah.
A huge fan. And he was on at me for years, literally 3
It's annoying,
years.
isn't it, when someone gets on at you for years about playing Last
Play
of
it, Del.
Us?
Play it, Del.
Honestly, I mean, he's been on at me more than the rest of us for trying to do
The rest of us.
jungle,
The rest
a
of
jungle
us.
strike or a desert strike pod. But anyway, but he was literally saying, you know, because I love that genre of game. I've
zombie
played
games, yeah.
literally every survival horror you could imagine. And he's like, you would absolutely love it. He said, because you love a story driven game. You know, there's no need for like all the multiplayer guff. And it's, you know, it's really atmospheric. It's all about the characters, but you've also got, you know, the weapons and the settings.
Yeah.
And I was like, it sounds really good. So we started talking about it. But again, it wasn't a case that I didn't learn much about the game because again, he's like, I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
So he was being kind of quite sensitive in that fact. And then when I started watching the TV show, I was like, this is a really good story. Like, this is really good about the interaction of the characters. I'm not going to go too much into it, but essentially where I am right now, I'm probably between 40 to 50% through the game.
Okay.
I don't mind spoilers. You can go ahead with it. It's fine. I'm still going to play it. But I'm about, probably 45% through the game. And I am, I think, on something like episode 7 of the series.
Okay.
So
You're almost caught up on the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, you know, what happens, and whatever we talk about is
Yeah,
fine.
sorry, it's kind of unavoidable.
No, I
the
know
spoilers,
it is. Of course
but-
it is. But it's going to be interesting to me to then kind of compare what you're going to be saying to what then I'm seeing, because I'm experiencing both for the first time now. And again, I don't think there's many people out there who will have done that because
I doubt it.
yeah, they'll
really
have either
doubt
played
it.
it back in the day
Yeah.
and then replay it because the replay value is very high.
Yeah.
Or you've got people that have just watched the TV show
And we'll go back and play it.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
Not doing both
the
at
same-
once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a weird one. So I'm pretty sure. I'm in a minority, but hey, that's good for me. But I'm looking forward to this one. Really am.
But
Good stuff.
even fewer people have unlocked the secret boats.
Secret boat scene.
Secret rowboat.
That are in Jurassic Park on the SNES. Yeah.
Row
I'm in a
your boat.
smaller minority, so
You are. Okay. Yeah. So going on from that, this whole podcast will be chock full of spoilers. So
You've got your
if you're
warning.
watching the show or playing the game,
Turn this off now.
Turn it off now and come back later. But yeah, what I figured what we'd do is as we go through the plot and stuff, we'll talk about the TV show as well and how it differs and things like that. So
Cool.
So for me, yeah, Dill's right. It's kind of an important. It's one of my favorite games. I'm not going to pretend it's not. But for me, it was kind of a big game in my gaming life, if you like, because we've talked about it in the past. Sort of as the 2000s went on, I was playing football games and I was playing racing games and not a lot else. And the only games, like kind of single player action games that I really played in the period leading up to when I first played this were Gears of War on my 360, and then Red Dead Redemption on my 360.
Quality.
And that was what 2010 11ish. And then and then the retro game thing hit, and I bought a Mega Drive again, and I've got a SNES, and that was probably early 2010s. And then for whatever reason in 2015, so it was a year or so after the PS4 came out, I obviously felt flush enough to go out and buy one. And I sort of picked up a copy at the time because, again, I was a little bit out of touch. So I picked up a copy of like the official PlayStation magazine. What game should I be playing? And there was so much stuff and so much hype about The Last of Us. And obviously not having a PS3 and not paying too much attention to gaming at the time, I had the initial hype had passed me by. But then I'd seen it had been remastered for PS4. It was an amazing remaster. And I think even then, this was probably like autumn 2015. It was only about 15 quid. So I was like, let's do it. Let's take the plunge. And I remember playing it sort of over Christmas 2015. And I absolutely loved it. And it sort of prompted me then to think, I actually really enjoy these kind of like story driven games, this kind of action game. I need to get back into this. And sort of from there, I went headfirst into like current gen gaming and modern games and all the rest of it. And obviously been sort of fully back into gaming, if you like.
Kind of your
since.
gateway. Your
Kind
gateway
of like
yeah.
it almost back into gaming, like properly.
Yeah.
After years of just playing Pro Evo and like Gran Turismo. So it was a big one for me. A big one. So before we talk about the game itself, let's look at the development a little bit, as we like to do. So Naughty Dog, at the time, what were they most famous for before it came out?
Crash Bandicoot, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah. And also
Crash Bandicoot, sorry, I might there.
say that again for the people at the back.
Crash Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot.
And what other series of action games had already begun before The Last of Us?
I feel like I should know this.
It's just had a film that I don't think was very good with Mark Wahlberg and Spider-Man in.
Max
Uncharted.
Max Payne again.
Oh, yes, of course.
No,
Pull
not
some
Max
funny faces.
Payne.
I just pulled my sex faces.
Yes, Uncharted. So Naughty Dog began developing The Last of Us in 2009, following the release of Uncharted 2: Among Thieves. For the first time in the company's history, they split into two teams. While one team was busy developing the third Uncharted game, which was called Drake's Deception, the other team began work on The Last of Us. It was directed by Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann, not Druckmann, as Adrian
Druckmann.
called him in a previous podcast. Druckmann. And you'll find this interesting, actually, Aid. So while he was at university, Druckmann had an idea to merge the gameplay of Ico
But I love Ico.
in a story set during a zombie apocalypse like that of George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. So Ico, I know you're a big fan.
Oh,
And what's one of the main gameplay kind of points of Ico in terms of what you're doing as a character?
you're basically trying to escape the castle.
But who are you
you're
helping?
Looking after.
You're looking after the girl.
That's right. So it was that kind of aspect of it.
Man, that game is too cool.
With a zombie apocalypse theme. So that was that was where his idea came
They
from.
kind of
for
are
this.
shadow monsters in that game, though. They're not zombies.
No, but you
No,
can see.
they're, some would say worse than, but I'm sure we'll come on to that.
And here's the third aspect to it, which I found really interesting because I'm a fan of the comics and the film. The lead character was going to be similar to John Hartigan from Sin City. So if you remember, that's Bruce Willis's character in Sin City. And again, in that, he is basically looking after a young girl,
That's right,
or he
yeah.
saves her from.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that was it. But his initial idea was that the lead character was going to be a police officer and he'd be tasked with protecting a young girl. And again, it was heavily influenced by Sin City. Due to the lead character's heart condition, players would often assume control of the young girl, reversing the roles, and she would have to look after him.
Right.
So as you know, having played it, elements of this idea did remain
Who's
in the
got a heart
game.
condition?
No,
so
that was
this was his initial idea, and in
Oh,
Sin
sorry.
City, John Hartigan, Bruce Willis's character, has a heart condition, and so some elements of this remained in the finished game, although it was in a very different.
What's the Jason Statham film where he's got a heart condition?
Crank,
That's such a good movie.
mate.
That's a
Orange Wednesdays.
That's another Orange Wednesday.
Yeah,
That's a different heart condition.
If you know, you know.
amazing films. I love those films. And so the core concept of the game was going to involve the infected. Now, do you know what this was inspired by?
Don't say COVID. Don't say
No,
COVID.
no.
No.
It was way before
COVID was
2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello.
COVID was inspired by the last.
Exactly.
So it was inspired by a segment from a BBC nature documentary, Planet Earth. Any fans?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've seen that.
Are you talking
I know
about
what you're talking
the wasp
about.
It's
taking over
Ant, isn't it?
here you go. So it featured the cordyceps fungi.
Yes,
So
the
this is a
cordyceps.
fungi that mainly infects insects and takes control of their motor
right.
functions.
That's badass.
It's really, really freaky.
It's very
I've
scary.
seen that.
So it takes control of their motor functions and forces them to help spread the fungus. So it's how it
that's right.
how it spreads the fungus.
And that's real. That's a
real thing.
That is not fiction.
No, and they obviously in the documentary they had footage of it controlling like ants and things.
Yeah.
and it's really, really creepy. And so the idea was, what would happen if this evolved and could infect humans?
It's quite a scary concept.
He's a smart guy,
The
isn't he?
drug man.
Drug man. So that was where the idea for the cordyceps fungus came from. The relationship between Joel and Ellie was going to be the main focus of the game, and most of the other elements were developed around it. Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson were cast as Joel and Ellie, and they provided voice performances and motion capture. They also helped to develop the characters as well. For example, Baker convinced Druckmann that Joel would care for Tess due to his loneliness, and Johnson convinced Druckmann that Ellie should be stronger and more defensive than she'd originally been written. Also, and I remember this at the time because I remember when I first saw footage of it, I thought, wow, she looks like Ellen Page. And following comparisons to, now that's actor Elliot Page
Elliot
now,
Page,
but at the time she was best known as actress Ellen Page. They changed Ellie's appearance and redesigned her to better reflect Johnson's personality and also make her appear a bit younger. The game's other characters also underwent some changes. Tess was originally intended to be the main antagonist. But the team found it difficult to believe her motives. The sexuality of the character Bill was originally left vague in the script, but later altered to further reflect his homosexuality. The Last of Us features an original score composed primarily by Gustavo Santaolalla, and he's mainly known for like minimalist compositions. So it's quite a lot of acoustic stuff.
Nice.
And he used lots of instruments to compose a score, and including some that he was unfamiliar with.
Talented lad.
Giving a sense of danger and
It
innocence.
is amazing, though.
The sound design's incredible.
It's really haunting, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've used a lot of it in the TV show. I mean, the intro music
Yeah,
to
it's
the TV
really-
show is the same.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure we'll come on to all that sort of thing later.
Yeah.
It's very foreboding, isn't it? And haunting, and it's brilliant.
And one of the first things that they decided to work from in terms of development was the sound of the infected. They wanted to do that. They wanted to sort of find that and then sort of work from there. and they experimented with different sounds. And they hired a voice actress called Misty Lee, who apparently is quite well known. She provided a sound that audio lead Philip Kovacs described as originating in the back of the throat, to give the clickers that sound. Yeah.
Can I do it?
That's still clearing his throat in the morning. Very nice. There you go.
Making people feel sick now, aren't they?
You don't need voice actors. We've got Dylan James.
We're doomed. Anyway.
The art department took various pieces of work as inspiration, such as photographs following Hurricane Katrina, which were used as a reference point when they were designing the flooded areas. Because obviously there's a lot of areas where...
Water, flooded areas, perfect.
Rowboats.
Bit of random
Boats.
trivia for you. My family was actually in that.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, 2004.
I think, yeah.
It was. They were in Katrina in Florida.
correct.
Wow.
So yeah. So that
Darren was as well. I remember him showing the picture of his car completely flooded.
Yeah, it was.
Or his rental car, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were.
Darren,
they were
you're
on
listening?
holiday.
Yeah.
Tell me what that was about.
Just mad. But yeah, they're on holiday.
So-
Just got evacuated to a school.
Oh, jeez. Can't imagine it. But yeah, they used obviously stuff like that because that one of the elements of The Last of Us. It's 20 years after the outbreak, and it's sort of showing how nature would reclaim the towns and the cities, and what the effect of everything being flooded would be, and things like that. So yeah, they used those as like a reference when designing the levels and stuff. The art department had to negotiate for things that they wished to include, as there's quite a lot of different opinions. They settled on a balance between simplicity and detail. While Australia and Druckmann preferred the former, the art team preferred the latter. So I don't know about you guys, obviously Dill and James haven't played it. The detail in the backgrounds and the art design and stuff. How do you feel it all sort of came together? Because for me, I mean, it must have been the best looking game on the PS3, right? When it came out originally.
And obviously that remaster is one of the best early titles on the PS4. So.
I could. Do you know what though? Use it like when you say simplicity and then detail. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
There is a really good balance between those two things. It's not a busy screen.
No.
But what is on the screen is very detailed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so you're not looking at your focus is definitely on the characters and what's in front of you and whatever threats there are and things like that. So you've always got that kind of vision that you're not hampered by all of the extra scenery, and because there's some games that way overdo it, and there's some games that undercook it. But I think that's exactly nail on the head. It's there isn't a lot there. But what is there is very detailed. So yeah, there's a good balance they've struck there, which I would imagine from a development point of view is probably quite a hard thing to do. Because if you've got the art department going, no, we want detail.
Yeah, we want it to look
and then
as
you've
detailed
got,
as possible.
the director going, no, we want, simplicity. They've obviously struck a balance, which I would imagine, I don't, I've never been a developer or anything, but I would imagine that's quite hard to do.
Yeah,
To come to that,
be,
agreement, But yeah, it's very nice looking.
It's a stunning looking game. The Last of Us game designer, Ricky Cambia, cited the video games Ico and Resident Evil 4 as influences on the design of the game.
That game's influenced so much.
He said the emotional weight of the relationship needed to be balanced with the tension of the world's issues, stating that they wanted to take the character building and interaction of Ico and blend it with the tension and action of Resident Evil 4.
On the PS3, the same man, I forget his name, think it's Fumento Ueda, I might pronounce it all wrong, but for Ico, he made The Last Guardian as well. I wonder if that is any influence as well, because that sounds quite I've never played it, but it looks quite similar to Ico. Simple-ish, but really nice looking. So again, maybe that's part of the...
I think that came out after The Last of Us.
Okay.
The Last
yeah, I
Guardian.
think it was quite a late PS3 title. Fair play.
The team created new engines to satisfy their needs for the game. The artificial intelligence was created to coordinate with the players, and the addition of Ellie as artificial intelligence was a major contributor to this. The lighting engine was also recreated to incorporate soft light, in which the sunlight seeps in through spaces and reflects off surfaces.
Oh, beautiful.
Which is very
so they created new
impressive,
engines just to do that for this game.
it's going to be good when you see stuff like that, don't
incredible. So it was first announced, The Last of Us, on December the 10th, 2011 at the Spike Video Game Awards. The announcement ignited widespread anticipation within the gaming industry, mainly due to Naughty Dog's reputation. Obviously, the Uncharted games have been really popular. And of course, Crash Bandicoot as well. The game missed its original projected release date of the 7th of May 2013 and was pushed back to June the 14th worldwide for further polishing. I don't know how much polishing you could do in a month.
A month? Yeah, why?
So,
all right.
We hear a lot about crunch, don't we, in game development. So, for anyone interested in learning more about the making of the game, or seeing behind the scenes of the motion capture and the acting process, there's a really good documentary called Grounded, the making of The Last of Us. Now, Grounded is the hardest difficulty setting on the game.
I just realised I've seen that. Yeah.
And I think that's grounded in reality. I haven't tried it, but it's supposed to be
heard
rock hard.
Yes, I've heard that it is. You can't put a toe wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be realistic.
Yeah.
The supplies and things that you find are so scarce, and
right.
I've never tried it. I'm too much of a wuss, but this documentary is called Grounded. It's available on YouTube, and I think it's included on the PS4 remastered disc as well.
Yes, it is.
But it is really, really interesting. So if you've got any interest in like how these games are made, but it's the motion capture stuff and the acting, it's really, really interesting. So I highly recommend that.
Well worth a watch, by the sounds of it.
Definitely. So, for anyone living under a rock or Aid, what is The Last of Us? What is it?
It's not a zombie.
What is
it's
it?
not a zombie
No,
game.
it's not.
What is it?
No.
It's not a zombie program.
The Last of Us is an action-adventure game, says Wikipedia. Played from a third-person perspective, the player traverses post-apocalyptic environments such as towns, buildings, forests, and sewers to advance the story. The player can use firearms, improvised weapons, hand-to-hand combat, and stealth to defend against hostile humans and cannibalistic creatures infected by a mutated strain of the cordyceps fungus. For most of the game, the player takes control of Joel, a man tasked with escorting a young girl, Ellie, across the United States. The player also controls Ellie throughout the game's winter segment and briefly controls Joel's daughter, Sarah, in the opening sequence. In combat, you can use long-range weapons such as a rifle, a shotgun, and a bow, and short-range weapons such as a handgun and short-barreled shotgun. You can scavenge limited-use melee weapons such as pipes and baseball bats, throw bottles and bricks to distract, stun, or attack enemies, and you can upgrade weapons at workbenches using those collected items. Now, I thought this was quite cool, the way you could upgrade like the baseball bat and stuff.
Yeah.
Put some
Nails
like
and
blades.
Steve
and-
Harrington style.
Steve Harrington style.
A pair of
Yes.
scissors on the end of a pipe or whatever, isn't it?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I quite like the way the upgrade and crafting
Very
system works. You find a workbench, and because you pick up it's basically like scrap, isn't it? You
I
collect
think it's
pieces of
metal,
scrap, and
blades and tape.
there's tape.
Water.
And then for like the medical, the health packs and things. Yeah, there's
and
water, rags. Yeah. Alcohol for your Molotov cocktail.
Saxophone.
That's it. Do you use it to make a Molotov cocktail or a health item?
I like to burn things.
I like to burn.
Even if it means dying
Even though I
while
was
I'm
like-
doing it.
I'm making a Molotov.
One of the most important things that you have to craft, James, you were talking about this before. What do you need plenty of?
Shivs.
Shiv him.
Yeah.
You've got to have a shiv.
You got to have a
this was-
shiv, mate.
Can I mentioned old Steve again. Honestly, I was playing it the other night and he's sitting there watching me and it's like, Shiv. It was like a
Shiv
test.
him.
Honestly, it was like a driving theory test. I'm sitting there, I'm going through it, and I'm like, I walk up to. I think we're going through some gardens of houses, etc. And there's obviously like affected the next gardens and so on and so forth. He knows what's coming. He's played it loads of time, and all I get in my ear is this. Got any shivs?
So, James, in your own time, I'd just like you to proceed through this area and show me how you would deal with these infected.
Yeah,
Is it like that?
pretty much. Yeah, and you go, as a side note,
sit
hashtag
there
shivs.
sort of-
Hashtag shivs.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't got any. Maybe I'll make a couple. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, that might be that might be a good idea. Yeah, and
do you
lo and
make
behold,
Wood.
so
They're like
it's a blade
like a
with
stabby
tape around the base.
stabbo.
So it's
you
like an
find like
improvised
broken
dagger.
scissors and stuff
Yeah.
to improvise a shiv.
Exactly,
Yeah.
half a pair of scissors, I think, with
Yeah.
some tape around the
But
base.
this is where you can see like the influence of RE4 maybe, or even the Resident Evil remake where they brought in like the defense weapons. So if you get grabbed by the infected, if you've got a shiv,
You're okay.
you're basically all right because you can get them off with the shiv.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's a funny word, isn't it, Shiv?
Shiv. It is a bit. It's a prison word.
Shiv happens.
shank him, bruv.
Shiv happens.
That's the
Shiv
London
happens.
version. Shiv happens. It does.
That's what the game should be
Shiv
called.
happens and then you die.
Imagine.
attributes like your health meter and crafting speed, because your crafting happens in real time. So if you are, it's not like Resident
There's
Evil
no
4.
pause menu.
No, everyone doesn't
No,
wait
pause.
for
Press
Leo.
press the pause
No,
button.
Joel doesn't
No, you
open his
gotta find
case.
a
You
place
can't.
to
You
hide.
literally do
No,
it.
pause.
So you need to find a place to do it. You can't do it
Oh,
while
no, I
you're
don't
being
like that.
attacked. You can't crouch down, go rummage through your rucksack while they're trying to eat you.
You're
imagine Leon.
You're
I've already
attaché.
organised my lovely pack.
Yeah, it's not like that.
What is it? Attaché.
Attaché case. Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Leon's
Wait,
attaché
1 minute.
case.
Let me open my attaché case.
I'm busy.
Sorry, bro. You can't attack me while I'm building.
I'm organising my shivs.
That's it. Yeah.
This is my spiky one. This is my...
by length and sharpness.
That's it. So you can upgrade your crafting speed so that when you need to do that, it doesn't take so long and you don't get eaten. Your health can be recharged by finding edible items. You can pick up like random chocolate bars and things.
Isn't there
20-year-old chocolate bars.
Tasty.
There's a tin. There's like a big tin, isn't there, of like dog food or something? Is it dog food?
I don't know what it is.
Pudding
It
or
could
something
be,
like
yeah.
that. It's like a big fat
War
tin,
rations,
isn't it?
yeah. And obviously you
More
can
rations, yeah,
you can craft health kits as well. So different ways of approaching the gameplay. You can attack enemies directly, but you can also use stealth to attack undetected or sneak by them.
Stealth,
So-
my old friend.
Yeah, so this is where it starts to get a bit unrealistic. Joel has this magic ability to listen.
Focus,
Do you like my sound
Yeah,
effects?
that was good. He can listen so hard that he can see the silhouettes of people through walls to
Yes.
see where they are.
Has he got magic powers?
Apparently.
Otherwise,
Apparently.
it would be too
It would be
difficult.
again, I think in grounded mode,
no,
you don't have it. I think it gives you like an idea of a direction,
Yeah.
which is realistic.
So if
So
you're
you'd
like-
be able to hear
If you're
what
playing it with
direction.
headphones in, you might stand a bit of a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think actually on that note, it is a much better game to play with a headset on.
Oh, yeah.
Far
yeah,
better
yeah, yeah.
Why?
because there's so much more audio
yeah.
detail, footsteps, the atmosphere,
Yeah.
things creaking,
Being able
and
to hear
trees
people,
and,
like enemies behind you. And
exactly, yeah, and the like clickers and stuff like that. When you hear them like at a distance,
I'm going to shift you up.
yeah,
I'm gonna shiv you up.
shift happens. But, yeah, and you hear them. You get a rough idea of the direction, don't you? But on
Yeah.
on a TV speaker or soundbar, you just don't get that. At all.
no, that's
So-
right. But yeah, I think grounded mode takes that away, so it makes it realistic. But I think I'd find it almost impossible to play like that. So yeah, there's like a dynamic cover system. You can crouch behind obstacles to gain a tactical advantage, or you can just run up and smash people in the face. But
See, this is
It's
what
not-
I tried to do when I first played.
Oh,
it.
did you?
And then Joel died.
when you start
Joel died
when
again.
you start dealing with the clickers, the best thing to do is to
Yeah.
go,
There's
go
not a lot of
stealthy.
ammo either, is there? Like
No.
ammo for
No,
guns.
ammo
Like
is
you'd think,
scarce.
hang about, I've got myself a pistol, I've got myself a revolver, I've got a
Yeah.
shotgun. You think, wait, but literally within like a minute, you can get rid of so much ammo, and you haven't even killed them.
That's
Like,
right.
and they'll take some like real beating, but if you use a bit of stealth, you can either strangle them if
Yeah.
they're not. You can't strangle the clickers. You can't punch.
No,
the
not the
can you?
clickers, no.
you have to shiv them. Or
Yeah, you need a shiv.
If you've got like a melee weapon, like a pipe or something, you can. If you get the jump,
You
on
can,
them,
yeah.
but if they get the jump on you, you're dead, aren't you?
Yeah,
Like,
they're
like,
one. They're
literally-
basically one hit kills. Yeah, if they
which
get hold of you.
surprised me. I was
Yeah,
like, where's my health bar? Because normally, again, I'm going off the beaten rails here a little
Yeah.
bit. But with almost all of the other kind of survival games I've ever played, yeah, you sort of you've got a chance to kind of you get bitten or whatever, and your character's got some angle on the story where they can't get infected or whatever, and your health goes down, and then you can replenish your health. Like the first time I got killed by a clicker, I was like, "What's going on?"
yeah.
Hang about. I got back to checkpoint. What? What's this all about? And I was dead.
The first time I played it, I think I died 5 or 6 times. The first time I came across the clickers,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then
it teaches you a harsh lesson.
you have to learn.
Yeah.
You have to learn that you can't just run in and just start swinging, because if you've got like one, maybe 2 people, you can punch them and
Yeah.
brick them and whatever.
There's always one hanging around the corner in
And there's
another
always
room
one
or something.
Yeah.
behind
And they all
you.
just run up and get you and then you're dead.
Yeah, you've got to be smart about it. And that's where I think this.
That's
game,
I love me Molotovs, you see, because when I got back
Oh, the
into
Molotovs
it,
are so
I was
useful.
like, okay, I'm going to chuck a brick, make them all go over there. Hello, boys.
Once you get, if you can get a group of them together, the Molotov cocktail is so
What
effective.
do these clickers look like? Zombies?
So
Stop saying zombies.
They're not zombies.
I'm just kidding.
They're walkers.
Has James got a good description?
I said this and
Go on.
and I thought to myself, that's exactly what it looks like. Imagine like a zombie figure, okay,
Yeah.
in terms of like an infected human, kind of like all janky and
Yeah.
on their head they've got like a big piece of coral.
Yeah, they've got coral head.
Yeah, it's kinda what it
imagine
looks like. Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
like a round piece of coral that's got all the waves and looks like a big brain. Yeah,
So-
but
So
coral.
that's where the fungus has taken over.
and they
For
can't
years
see,
and
they
years,
can't
yeah.
see. Yeah.
And continue to
And it's
grow.
from like their nose, all the whole top of their
Yeah.
face, and the top of their head is like this big.
So they can't actually see the clickers, but that's where if they hear, but they've got super like heightened hearing.
Yeah, if
So
they hear
you have
you're
to
done.
be, that's where the stealth comes in. And I when I first started playing it, I thought I won't use the bricks and the bottles, but they're so handy, and that's why they are scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
And you can throw them to stun them, or like Dill says, throw them in the corner, get them all to go over there, and then Molotov. Yes, it works so
good.
well.
That's a good tactic. I haven't used that one yet. I like
Use
that.
it, man. It's fun. Yeah, that's the thing because I got so annoyed with it the first time round, but then you kind of like once you embrace those things,
It's
it
not
becomes more
Resident
fun.
Evil 4.
No,
Yeah,
It's
you're not just
Resident
going
Evil
That's a
4.
good thing.
Of course, yeah.
If you try that
that's
approach,
it.
you will die.
You will die, and
all the
it
time.
does. It
Yeah.
teaches you that, or even on the easier modes, it's still if you run in the clickers, well, you're dead.
Yeah,
You're dead, son.
you're dead.
That's it. So, what do we
Can
think
you
of
loot
the?
clickers? Can you loot them?
They sometimes carry stuff,
Do
don't they?
I think they generally drop ammo.
The normal infected do, but I'm pretty sure they do.
Sometimes.
The clickers
I can't
tend-
remember.
Yeah,
It's been
no,
a
I'm
while
just
since I played it.
thinking-
They tend to drop ammo, so I've found that. And again, I'm only
Well, obviously, when you kill human enemies, that makes sense because they're trying to shoot you usually, and they're carrying ammo and.
Yes, with the
trying to
stuff
remember.
I've had out of the clicker, I'm on
Yeah.
normal mode, and the stuff
Okay.
I've had out of the clickers generally so far has been revolver or shotgun ammo.
Okay.
So
Okay,
it's
so
quite
they
high
just carry
value
ammo
because
as well.
you need it.
Yeah.
But they normally drop a little bit more than if you were just to find it randomly.
Yeah.
So you normally find 2 or 3 rounds for something, and the clickers can be like 5 or 6
Yeah.
when you beat them because obviously they're a little bit of a harder enemy.
Yeah.
So I think it's generally ammo like revolver and shotgun at the point I'm at.
You're right.
So,
Yeah. They don't drop pesetas, Aid, unfortunately.
Pesetas.
They do.
No
Like
pesetas.
they do
I was
in
playing
RE4.
Witcher recently.
Pesetas.
You can loot loads in Witcher.
What are you boying? No, they're not doing
What are you
that.
boying?
What are you boying?
Can you imagine if he's
That's
in the
like a
last...
Lloyd Grossman almost. That one.
What are you boying?
No, who would live in a house
Keith,
like
what?
this?
What?
David, it's over to you. Keith, it's back to you.
So we like the combat. Once you learn how
Yes.
it works,
I think
we enjoy
I
the
share
combat.
Dill's, and again, this is all quite fresh in my mind. I share Dill's frustration.
and then
Initially,
Yeah.
I was frustrated not at the game, at myself.
yeah,
Because
you were playing it in a certain
I
way.
normally learn quite quickly. I normally learn systems quite quickly, and I was annoyed that it was taking longer to learn than it should have done, in my mind.
Okay.
I'm probably being a bit unfair, but because it was a totally different way of approaching a situation. Because you can have, I mean, I seem to remember there's a room in a building that's like got one side blown off of it. You've got a piece of wall, and you can basically circle round. But there were 4 of them. One of them was easy to take out, and there was another 3 basically covering each other's paths.
Oh,
And I
okay.
found it really difficult to, normally I can work out a path. I
Yeah.
was getting really frustrated with it. I was like, right, let's try it from a different angle. And you try something else and it's a totally different scenario.
Yeah.
Like you can play one scenario 3 or 4 times and do
it in a different
things
way.
every time.
Yeah.
Like with the bricks, the bottles, sometimes you might distract, sometimes you might smash one over the head, et cetera, et cetera. So I think frustrated I didn't learn the sort of nuances quicker, but not at the game. That's praise for the game.
Yeah.
Because of the depth.
Yeah.
But no, I'm with you on that. In that initially you get a bit hot collared, don't you? And you go,
Yeah.
God's sake.
You're like, I've had enough of this.
Yeah, but that's praise for the game because it kind of it didn't
had
make me
enough.
want to walk away. It made me want to like learn it and get better.
Yeah.
So that's you can play it lots of different ways. I think in the same scenario.
Well, another cool thing about the combat. So I mentioned briefly before the AI system. So as well as the clickers and the infected, there's obviously hostile human enemies.
Oh yeah.
And obviously the AI controls how they react in combat. So if they discover you, they might take cover to fire at you from. They might call for assistance, or they'll try and sneak up and take advantage of you as well while you're distracted, maybe trying to craft something, or if you're out of ammunition or fighting someone else, they might come and try and take advantage of
party.
that. Yeah. Ellie assists in combat by throwing objects that threats to stun them She doesn't kill them, but she can throw bricks and bottles and things, which helps. But obviously one of the aspects of that is you have to keep an eye on Ellie because she can take damage. And if she dies, game over.
Do you have a controller?
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you for asking. We'll come to that later. That's another one of the slightly unrealistic things that they did fix in the second game is that Ellie can stand right out in the open, and as long as you're hidden, the enemies don't see you.
Can I give you a little thing on that? Because I thought I was going nuts. I went through the bit. It's towards the start of the game. So there's a subway area where you start off. There's a load of lockers. And you go into a room which is almost like it's like a little subway station. It's got a few shops. There's like a seating area in the middle. Anyway, I think there's about 4 or 5 clickers. There's a couple of infected, etc. And I was, and it was the bit where it says to you, if you crouch and walk, if you do it full speed, the clicker will hear you.
If you do it slowly,
but you can go slower, which silences your footsteps. I was like, right, okay. So I was being really careful, and I was like, I'm doing well here, and I was carving a path, and I took a couple out, and all of a sudden, Tess comes blazing up from the back, dum, 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 bang, 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 jumps over the wall, right in front of a clicker, jumps back over, and it then just sits there as if nothing happens. Yeah. And this clicker's just wandering around. I'm going, I've done all this work here. And I thought, do you know what?
It'd be unfair though if like that set it off and you've been so quiet.
Of course it would.
So in a way,
but
it's
it
like
does. When you notice it, it does look ridiculous.
But thank God.
But it only happened like once or twice, so it's not like constant. But
no.
I'll just let it slide because it's obviously something that's just you know. But you're absolutely right. Like, right in full view.
Like, what are you doing? Duck!
Get it behind the door.
Duck! Oh God.
But cool.
So, as well as obviously the combat, there's a lot of periods without combat. Obviously, stuff revolving around the conversation between the characters. There's not a lot of puzzles in the game. They tend to be quite simple puzzles. There's a lot of finding pallets for Ellie because she can't swim.
Pallets.
Kev.
Lots of pallets in The Last of Us. Yeah, she can't swim, so you have to help her across bodies of water.
That's cool. I like those bits.
And you have to use ladders and dumpsters as well. You have to pull the bin so you can climb on it to get to the
Adrian thought the pallet was a boat.
A rowboat.
A rowboat.
A row pallet.
Yeah, but the pallet still wasn't at the start of the game. It's not until the subway, is it?
Is it actually? It's been a while since I played it.
On the
title screen. Is there a boat?
No, that's the second game.
No, that's the
second one. Thank you.
It's a
window with the knife by the door, by the window.
You're telling me I've gone crazy. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely insane.
Well, I'm thinking you somehow played maybe Last of Us Part 2.
I completed that game. But I don't think we're talking about that particular. Imagine someone's completed Part 2 but not Part 1.
All the time you're sitting there going, I was talking about Part 2. What was you talking about?
Yeah. What?
So that's the main crux of the gameplay. I'm just going to briefly mention the multiplayer because a lot of people loved it. I've never played it.
No,
there's an online multiplayer mode called Factions. It allows up to 8 players to engage in competitive gameplay in rearranged versions of some of the single player levels. The game features 3 multiplayer game types, Supply Raid and Survivors, which are both team deathmatches. With the latter excluding the ability to respawn. There's a mode called Interrogation, which features teams investigating the location of the enemy team's lockbox, and the first team to capture the lockbox wins. In every mode, players select a faction, Hunters, a group of hostile survivors, or Fireflies. And you have to keep your clan alive by collecting supplies during the matches. So each match is equal to 1 day. And by surviving 12 weeks, players have completed a journey. And can then choose a different faction if they choose to. You can earn parts by marking or killing enemies, healing or reviving allies, crafting items, and unlocking the enemy lockbox. Parts can be spent mid-match on weapon upgrades and armor, and are converted to supplies at the end of the match. Additional supplies can be scavenged from enemies' bodies. Players also earn points as they play, which can be spent on weapons or skills to create custom loadouts. It sounds pretty cool, but I've never played it, but it was really highly regarded. For a game that's really only spoken about for its single-player campaign, the online multiplayer is
concept, like in terms of the modes.
Yeah, I mean it's completely it's set in the world, if you like, but it's got nothing to do with the plot of the game.
That's interesting.
But it is interesting that they spent the time to create a whole online multiplayer section of it.
They wouldn't have the time after pumping that out. I mean, the story's big enough as it is without.
It reminds me like GoldenEye, wasn't it? Originally, it was a one-player game. The last couple of months. They're seeing multiplayer, and that arguably
That's
was
what it's
the
remembered
start.
for, yeah.
Yeah, so that sounds.
I don't mind.
similar.
I don't mind the campaign mode, to be fair, in GoldenEye, but yeah, it is like that's obviously what they set out.
Yeah, and I think with The Last of Us 2, I think it launched without it.
Oh, and then they updated it.
But I
after.
think it's come along since. I don't know for sure. Again, I haven't played it. But
Okay.
if you're into online multiplayer
Maybe
and you
that's where the
haven't
votes
checked
are.
it out,
Not for me. I don't like playing with randoms.
me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither. And too rubbish.
Used to, but can't be asked.
Yeah.
Okay. So now then, let's get into it. Let's
Yes.
get into it. The plot.
Yeah, the plot.
Let's
This
talk-
is it. Spoiler
This
time.
is this is it.
Spoiler time.
Welcome to Spoiler Town. Population 4. In 2013, an outbreak of the mutant cordyceps fungus ravages the United States, transforming its human hosts into aggressive creatures known as the infected. In the suburbs of Austin, Texas, Joel flees the chaos with his brother Tommy and daughter Sarah. So what we would do is we'd just go through the main points of the plot. So this is just like a really quick summary. So we'll just have a little chat about
we can spend
little
hours
moments.
talking and going through
Yeah,
the plot,
so we'll have a little chat about each bit. So the opening, it did throw me when I played it for the first time when you control Sarah. So the start of the game, you meet Joel and Sarah. He comes home late from work. They seem to have a very nice father-daughter relationship. She's bought him a nice new watch for his birthday. And she says she got it by dealing hardcore drugs.
Nice.
Which is a joke, but, it's all very nice. And then the next thing you know, screen fades to black and you wake up and you are controlling Sarah.
What's going on?
What the hell's going on?
What's going on?
The house is empty. She can't see Joel anywhere, and the TV is on in his room. And I love the way they sync this. So it's showing the local news, and they're like, "Oh, there seems to be some kind of outbreak." And then, as an explosion happens, actually, you can see outside the window. There's an explosion, and it's not very far away.
No way.
And it's happening on the local news at the same time as she sees
Because
it.
she says, "Oh God, what is it now?" She's watching because you watch the TV because that's what's going on. In the room.
Yeah.
And it says there's an outbreak, and it says a particular location.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I'm not
And she
sure
said-
exactly.
And you hear her whisper, "Oh, that's not far from here."
That's it. Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but like even before the explosion, I looked out the window because I don't know what it was. Like, oh, it's not far from here. Oh, I must be able to see it out the window. And then and you hear it like on the TV and
At the same time, yeah.
Man
Again,
alive.
headphones. That would be.
I had it with headset
Fantastic,
on.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That whole that little opening section there. That is just one of the. It was scary.
It's great, and
it was genuinely scary.
So you're controlling Sarah. She's just woken up. She's just a teenage girl. You go downstairs. Joel suddenly bursts in, panicked and screaming,
Through the patio doors
through
or
the
something,
patio
yeah.
doors, followed by one of their neighbours, I think it is, covered in blood and trying to eat them. And so he shoots him, and obviously Sarah is panicked and what the hell is going on? And it's literally out the door in the truck with Tommy, Joel's brother, and they're trying to escape from the city. And obviously this whole opening is pure chaos. They get involved in a car crash, don't they? The first bit is always stayed with me, and they did it sort of shot for shot. It's funny watching the series and seeing shot for shot stuff. So and you climb in the back of the truck. You're still controlling Sarah. All you can do is control where she looks.
But you can look
all the way.
360.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
She shuffles over to one side. You can move her around in the back, but. Tommy's driving the truck, isn't he? And you see like a burning farmhouse in the distance, and then
he said, "Oh, that's so and so's house.
Yeah.
I hope he got out or something like that." Yeah.
And then they see the family by the side of the road, and again they did this shot for shot in the TV show. And Joel is like, "Keep driving."
Yeah.
Tommy's like, "Hey, they've got kids with them." And he's like, "Keep driving." And I love these little things. It shows you what kind of man Joel is, and what his priority is. There's no kind of like, we must help them.
No,
it's like, no, this is my daughter.
I mean,
we're getting out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, in a situation like that, it would be balls to the wall. Like you'd find out who you are, wouldn't you?
Well, of course, in these kind of situations,
you've got no time to make a decision. But what do? You know, you've got your family with you.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us would go, "Oh, we'd help.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Tough one, isn't
Exactly.
it?
Well, especially if you've seen as many
would you?
post-apocalyptic TV shows and films as I have, you wouldn't trust anyone.
No.
Exactly.
No. But then they obviously try to go to the freeway, like they're always doing these things. It's completely blocked, so they have to turn around and go through
Back
town,
into town,
which is just chaos. Then they get hit by a truck. They crawl out of the. So Joel has to now carry Sarah as they try and run through the town, which is full of explosions and fire and infected people. I don't know about you guys. One of my favorite things about like zombie films and anything like that is that when they show you the very beginning.
Exactly that.
I love
Yeah.
that experiencing the outbreak as it happens.
Yeah.
And
but just before as well.
yeah, the calm before the storm.
It's all calmness.
And or
Walking
you
Dead
see
as well,
something,
isn't it?
yeah. You see, that's what I can still rewatch the pilot episode of The Walking Dead and enjoy it on its own.
Absolutely.
As he discovers what's happening.
Yeah.
The 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake, I love for that.
Yeah.
You just start to see these bizarre things, like someone might come screaming out of their house onto the lawn, and you think, "Oh, that's strange."
That shouldn't.
And then
happen,
it just just before the gradual sort of panic
But it
builds
makes it
and-
real because it makes it so
puts
real.
you right in it.
Yeah, and the other bit on that as well that you've just kind of reminded me of in the truck as well. When you first get in the truck,
Yeah.
they drive, and I think this is exactly the same in the TV show as well, if I remember correctly. You as you're pulling away from like your street. You go down sort of a straight, don't you? And you look, and you can look back through the truck. You don't have to,
Yeah,
but you can
you can.
look back. And as you look back, you've got people like being chased.
Out of the houses and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so like real.
Yeah.
Like I know that sounds
Visceral.
ridiculous, but it's it's so vivid, and
Yeah.
the way they've done it is meant to literally scare the crap.
Well,
out
it's
of
such a clever choice to put you in control of the defenseless teenage girl.
you. because you can do nothing.
Yeah,
You can do nothing.
You
but
know,
sit
because
and
Joel,
watch.
he's a grown man and he could defend himself.
Yeah.
but you're completely defenseless.
That's right.
And all you're doing is just looking around, thinking, "What the hell's going on?"
It's it's a really,
It's a
really
great
well
opening,
done
isn't it?
Yeah.
But what happens at the end of the opening? Dill?
Oh God! Then they come across an officer, don't they?
So it's a soldier. Yeah, they as they're fleeing, they get separated from Tommy at one point because Tommy's got a gun and he's sort of defending them.
Well, they're on other sides of the truck, aren't they? And the truck is like jammed in between something else.
That was in a TV show.
oh right.
And Resident Evil 2. That's how
That's right.
yeah. No, I think doesn't he blocks a door or something in I don't know if it's a bar or something. He blocks the door and tells Joel and
Oh, that's it.
They
yes.
run
That's
to
it.
run.
You've got it. Yeah.
so they've got separated. So Joel he's not carrying any weapon. He's carrying Sarah, so he can't defend them. And they come across a soldier who points a gun straight at him. He tries to say, we're not infected. We're, can you help us? The soldier takes some orders and he's like,
mate.
"There's a girl with it. There's a young girl with him." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And then he aims as if he's going to shoot at him. And before Joel realizes what's going to happen, he tries to jump out of the way. He opens fire. At that point, Tommy reappears and shoots the soldier in the head.
And you think, phew. Oh,
You think, phew,
everyone's okay.
Joel's okay. And then you kind of hear Sarah whimpering. And she's been mortally wounded.
It was a bit of a shock.
Just a tad.
For her to go that early.
Yeah.
Because you get a little bit attached to her because of, like, obviously...
Because playing as her.
Well,
she's the tutorial.
if you didn't control her at all, and it was just, this is his daughter, I don't think it had the same
No,
impact.
and with the news and the,
Yeah,
out the
yeah,
window and in the car, and it's like that's just been ripped away from you. So what that tells me is how brutal the rest of the game is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if they can do that to you, you imagine what. And obviously, just before they get to the soldier, you have to you run down a little almost like a little valley.
Yeah, and then kind of up a hill again. Yeah.
and there's like there's an infected crawling out
Yep.
of an ambulance or
Yes.
something.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like. So you carry on running. I made the mistake once of trying to run backwards and look at what was going on. That
Oh,
was a
no,
bad
no,
idea.
he get you.
Got me.
Yeah.
And then so I carried on running, and I was like, he's definitely going to get us. And then all of a sudden, the soldier appears, and then it all kind of goes from there. But if they could do something like that to you that early on, in the first 15 minutes of gameplay,
Yeah, basically is, yeah.
You're just thinking, you savage so-and-so. Yeah. Right, okay, better strap in.
Yeah, it's hard to work this again. Like the
harsh.
performances in this game, it is amazing. I would say anyone who is maybe watching the show but isn't a video game person, so they're not going to go back and play it.
Get it.
Even if they're not, go on YouTube and watch the cutscenes and watch how brilliantly they were done 10 years ago in a PS3 game, because it's
Try
amazing.
And play it, though. Try and play
Oh
it
yeah,
somehow.
yeah. But yeah, it's shocking and it's hard to watch. Now, this isn't the bit that upset me the most. because I think you haven't grown that attached to them. Although there is an attachment, but after 15 minutes, it's not like
But I think
when you've been playing
they-
for hours and.
They can't develop Sarah anymore though, can they?
No,
Because
no, no,
obviously
no.
You've had that bit where you've controlled her, you've seen the news, you've done all of that,
Yeah,
run out
yeah,
of the
yeah.
house, you know, that initial panic.
Yeah.
And then she died. I mean, you can't get that attached to her.
No.
But you've got an attachment.
It's a
haven't
funny
you? So-
thing as well, and I wonder if this is a perspective dependent on your situation. Like, I played it as a parent, you played it as a parent, you played it as a parent.
Yep.
And I think something like that will hit you more. And
Yeah.
than if
Yeah,
you were
without
like
a doubt.
18 and playing a game like this for the first time, you wouldn't feel it as much. Some of the noises she makes as well, like it's such a brilliant performance.
Yeah.
It is hard.
It is
hard.
It's so realistic.
And because of the fact that they do the opener so kind of vividly, you're invested in what's going on.
Yeah.
You're not like, oh, you know, yeah, this is happening. That's seen it 100 times before.
Yeah.
It's done in a way which you sort of think, right, I'm invested already after 5 minutes. And because you're invested and you've got a little bit of commitment to that character, you're really sad because of the fact that this has happened to this guy, like in one night, you know, and he's gone to, I think he went to didn't he go to bail someone out to prison?
Oh, is it his brother? It's Tommy, isn't it? I think it's Tommy.
Was it
Yeah,
Tommy?
yeah, yeah.
And he went to bail him out, didn't he?
In
And then-
again, the TV show, I don't
Shows
think
that, but it doesn't- yeah.
they don't mention that in the game, but
Well,
that's
that's
what
what
he's
they
doing
feel,
in the
that's
show.
what-
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the opening, and what an opening! You know,
It's tough.
again, it's got to be among the most memorable, I think, in gaming for sure. So yeah, you see Joel holding Sarah in his arms as she dies. Screen fades to black. I think then you maybe get the opening credits with the music.
Yeah.
and then you get what you get here is a bit of voiceover background about the cordyceps infection and what's happened, and you know, like news broadcasts and stuff. And then 20 years later.
Man, that's a long time.
Yeah, 20 years later, you wake up as Joel. I mean, he's a sprightly mid-50s
Yeah,
man.
what?
The stuff he does in this game, because he's got to be in
I
his
can't even do that
50s.
stuff at 40, mate.
No,
he's pretty hench.
he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
So 20 years later, civilization has been decimated by the infection. Survivors live in totalitarian quarantine zones, independent settlements, and nomadic groups, leaving buildings and houses deserted. Joel now works as a smuggler with his partner Tess in the quarantine zone in the north end of Boston, Massachusetts. They hunt down a guy called Robert, who is a black market arms dealer who stole some of their weapons. And before Tess kills him, because they're that brutal, he reveals that he traded the weapons with the Fireflies, who are a rebel militia group
And that was his
opposing
first mistake.
the quarantine zone authorities, who are called Fedra. So what do you guys make of this? The opening 20 years later in Boston. I mean, you get the impression straight away of like this is a proper like police state that they're living in. There's like ration books. You have to have
times.
like permits to move between areas. You know, there's like
Bleak.
checkpoints. Yeah.
And everything's
Half-Life 2 vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
honestly,
as-
'cause you- at the
Yeah,
start-
it is.
yeah,
It is like Half-Life 2
Yeah.
with all those weird quarantine zones and all those
Yeah, you're not
weird
allowed- yeah.
guards and
Yeah,
stuff.
you're right,
Weird.
yeah.
It is.
And again, they do so much sort of setting up of the story, and there's that bit where you just walk in and you see them drag some people out of a building and line them up, and this is where they can so they
They
test
do
them
the
to
boop.
see if they're infected.
That's it with the little
With
handheld jobby, yeah.
If it goes red, you're infected. If it goes green, you're all right. And
Put it
they
up your
just
nose and
literally,
do it in your
yeah, 10 seconds, or
But
whatever.
it, but it does what got me was I thought that was gonna, like, first of all, 20 years. I was like, I wasn't
Yeah,
expecting.
yeah.
I was not
Yeah.
expecting. I was expecting, you know, a year,
Yeah.
18 months, 2 years, whatever. 20 years. I was like, oh, this is on.
But it's brilliant because you say it that far in the future, then the derelictness
Exactly.
of
It's
everything
even
it
worse.
doesn't
Yeah.
seem seem overbaked.
No, that's right.
If you think like, a couple of years, stuff wouldn't like go.
No, it would
go
be
to pot
completely
20.
taken
Like,
over
20
by-
years,
yeah.
everything would like cars would melt into the ground,
Yeah.
and like buildings,
Plants would take over
Obviously,
everything
They bombed
and-
bombed everything and everything. Anyway,
Yeah.
but like it would grow over. Like you'd have gardens growing into offices. Like you would get that kind of stuff. Yeah.
It's well, first of all, I didn't expect that length of
it's a big
time.
jump.
Yeah, it is a
But
big jump.
What kind of didn't surprise me as much as I maybe thought it would was looking at things like that where they're dragging people through the streets
Yeah.
and there's kind of little scenes going on where you've got armed guards and gangs
Yeah.
and I'm sort of thinking, well, do you know what, that like that's you're always going to have a body of people, you know, who are interested in ruling, you know. that are going to
yeah.
that, you know, so that part of it kind of was like, well, that would just kind of happen, and then you'd have your own little camps for people that don't want to be part of that or manage to escape or whatever. So it's interesting in that respect because you've got like a main ruling Fedra, isn't it? It's Fedra.
Yeah, Fedra.
You've got
Yeah,
your
I
own-
can't remember what it stands for now.
Yeah, no, I can't either. But you got your main ruling kind of military
yeah,
complex, and then you've got all of these other little groups, and then the Fireflies who are effectively like a resistance.
they're like a rebel militia. Yeah.
And then other little groups that have done their own thing. But that just opens it up to an even better story, doesn't it? Because then you find out about people and where they're from and who they've So
And this is one of the cool things about the TV show is it's expanded on this stuff. So you learn a bit more about Fedra and the Fireflies and what it's like to live in these zones. Because obviously, being a video game, it has to move at a certain pace to keep things going. But a TV show has been able to sort of take the time to, and obviously get some hints here that, again, like Joel and Tess are not necessarily good people.
No.
You know, they deal in guns. They were quite happy to execute that guy in cold
that's
blood.
established quite early on.
Yes.
To be fair, isn't it?
They're
Yeah.
brutal people. They're brutal people.
But, you know, shaped by the way they've had
Needs
to
must.
live to survive. Yeah. So at this point, they meet the leader of the Fireflies, who's Marlene.
Mm-hmm.
She promises that she will double their cache of weapons in return for smuggling a teenage girl, Ellie,
Mm-hmm.
to some more Fireflies who are hiding in the Massachusetts State House outside the quarantine zone. Initially reluctant, but they do it. They need those guns. So it's like, fine, we'll do it. Not happy about it. But Joel's like, she's just baggage, we'd do it. So they sneak out at night, where they encounter another government patrol who scan Ellie,
Yep.
and yes, it turns out,
Red.
It's like, say what?
yeah. So again, when you're new to it, you haven't seen the show, played the
Adrian's
game,
like glossing over now.
Not cool.
Ellie's infected.
But that's not good news.
That's not good news.
But
But-
it is
Twist.
good news.
Plot twist.
Plot twist.
Alert.
It turns out she was infected weeks ago, and she's showing no symptoms.
Say where?
So
She is the chosen one.
She's the anecdote.
she's immune.
The golden child.
Yeah, it seems that she's immune.
She who can up
And
in
so
the air.
this is why the Fireflies are trying to sneak her out, because they've got people working on the other side of the country trying to find a cure. Mm-hmm. And they think that her blood, her DNA might be the answer to this.
Ba, ba, ba.
Yes. And obviously they didn't tell Joel and Tess this.
No.
They had to find out and kill,
a need-to-know
kill
basis.
some soldiers in the process. Yes.
Yep.
So apparently symptoms normally occurred within 2 days, but Ellie says she was infected 3 weeks before, and they believe that her immunity is going to lead to a cure. So the trio make their way to their destination, to the state house, through hordes of the infected. They find when they get there, unfortunately, all the Fireflies have been killed. And at that point, poor old Tess reveals that she's been bitten by an infected. But she's come to believe in Ellie's importance, so she sacrifices herself against the pursuing soldiers so that Joel and Ellie can escape. It's at this point that Joel decides to find Tommy, who was a Firefly, in the hope that he can locate the remaining Fireflies. So this differed in the TV show.
Yes. Yeah.
In the TV show, he was always trying to find Tommy.
Yeah.
He's trying to get in touch with him. It's not weapons. It's a car battery.
Car battery.
Yeah.
So they can, go around.
In the game, it was weapons. In this, so at that point, there'd been. I'm not even sure if they mentioned Tommy in the game again at this point. Until then, I don't think
No, I
they
don't
really.
think they do.
No,
He's not that bothered.
no. Whereas in the TV show, it's a case of him. He's been trying
kind
to.
of always Tommy,
he's been
yeah.
trying to find him. So in this section, before you get to the state house, it's where you meet clickers for the first time. It's where I died loads on my first
Yeah,
playthrough.
everyone did.
And it's like you start to see the beginnings of Joel and Ellie's relationship. But it's very cold at the beginning. And I think, Dill, you probably back me up on this. I mean, James as well. I think in the game, he comes across as even more cold than he does in the TV show.
I'd agree with that.
There's moments in the TV show where he might be a little bit jokey or just occasionally. Early on, he's still
He's a bit
quite
more
but-
human.
Yeah,
A bit more human.
A bit more
Yeah,
human.
yeah.
But in the game, it's very like shut down.
Yeah, I think, and on that exact point, I seem to remember very recently reading some feedback. I think it might have been on Twitter actually, on a post that was about the show, and there were people on there sort of, crying their eyes out about saying on the show that, oh, well, there's not as much action and Joel hasn't killed as many people as he does in the game. And it's like, hang on a minute. let's be honest, if he'd killed as many people on the show as he did in the game,
there'd be no doubt about who the bad guy is.
Like you'd be some kind of like you'd be locked up,
Yeah,
like, even in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be having all that, and that's the whole point of. And I think that's what they've done very well with the TV show is they've echoed that kind of, it's the story about the interactions between the people.
Oh, yeah.
How people behave, you know, showing people's true colours when it hits the fan, you know, because everyone will sit there and go, oh, I'd do this and I'd go and do that.
Course.
Listen, you don't know what you'd do. Yeah.
Exactly.
When you haven't got time to make a decision, you don't know what you'd do. And I think that's exactly what the both the game and the show does very well. It's all true colours. Yeah. And you see people's real characters, and it's all about how the characters interact.
How would you react in that situation?
And that's what makes it so good, is because you're so invested in those characters.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well, that's it. This kind of section, this is it. You start to get an idea of what Joel's really like, or what he's become like because of what happened.
He's had to become like, I suppose,
and also Ellie as well. I think she becomes quite a lovable character quite quickly.
Yeah.
She's full of attitude. You know,
potty mouth.
Yeah, and you know, she's a child of the apocalypse, if you like. She doesn't know anything else. She's 14, I think she's supposed to be. So the world went to crap before she was born.
That's right. So she only knows. Yeah.
She only knows this. So yeah, and at the end of this section, Joel really only carries on because he feels like he owes it to Tess.
Yeah,
I think she says to him, you know, if this meant anything, take her. Get her there, you know, finish this mission. From there, with the help of Bill, a smuggler and survivalist who owes Joe a favour, Joel and Ellie acquire a working vehicle from Bill's neighbourhood in Lincoln. Now, that's a very brief summation of that section.
Yes.
But yeah, this again, the game and the show handled this very differently.
This was the biggest departure.
Yeah, the show devoted a whole episode basically to Bill. In the game, you find your way there. You get the impression straight away this is a paranoid man who's completely on his own because he's set booby traps everywhere.
Well, what was the first one? The clicker comes walking towards, and you're not quite ready.
No, that's right.
Really close to you in the corner of the building, and it just goes click.
Yeah,
and you think, oh, he's dead.
Yeah,
like what's happened there then? And then you realise there
all
was
these tripwire bombs. Yeah. He's a very grumpy fellow. He's not very happy to see Joel. They've clearly had some disagreements and fallouts in the past. But he does reluctantly agree to help him find the parts to get a car working so that they can go and find Tommy.
Yeah.
Again, so they hint at Bill being gay in the game.
Yeah, because you find Frank, don't you?
Yes. Ellie finds a stack of pornographic magazines.
Hello.
Which is your first clue.
Ding dong.
And yeah, when you're working your way through the suburbs at this point to try and find the truck, in one of the houses there is a corpse hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
And it turns out this was Frank. And in the game, all you really get is he says he was my partner. And obviously, you can
business partner.
You can read that. It's you can read between the lines.
There's a note as well, isn't there?
There is a note
that's left that you can pick up. I would imagine some people probably.
Yeah.
But there's a note from Frank to Bill, and if I'm not being funny, if you have even the slightest nose, you can read between the lines. Realize they have a relationship, especially when he kind of. I seem to remember anyway, because again, this is quite fresh. I think in the game, Bill, he almost hesitates when he says partner.
Right. Okay.
I think there's a slight hesitation.
Probably.
There. And like, if it was a completely sort of heterosexual kind of, he's my buddy, he'd be like, oh, he's my partner. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he sort of, he was my partner like that.
Yeah.
And you just know that there was a lot more to it. And it just makes it so sad. Like it's just, but I like and I dislike what the TV show did with it, because I'd love to have seen more interaction between Ellie and Bill, because they basically went at each other.
They do in the game,
and she gives as good as she gets, and some.
Yeah.
But I mean the TV show, I just thought it was a superb episode.
I thought so. So they stretched it out into a whole episode. You see how Bill. Bill was very he was on his own basically in this town. He completely isolated himself. He figured this was how he stayed safe.
Yeah.
Very distrustful of people. It shows you how he met Frank, and it shows their relationship.
Beautiful love story. It's beautiful.
I found
my girlfriend bawled her eyes out
you?
into that, and I'm like,
same my wife.
it
Absolutely.
was very
like,
moving,
it was,
unexpectedly moving. Yeah,
I just
that shot at the end where it's like the open window.
yeah,
And, like they're going and like
yeah,
it's going to the open window.
And you don't need to see anything else. You don't need
Oh,
to
no,
see
no.
because you know it's just But I think that it. And again, this is where they've done just so really well with the character development. They've played on the fact that, let's say, you're one of these people that has preparation. You've got all these weapons.
Yeah,
you go
yeah.
out and you know what you're doing. Yeah, you've got a bit of savvy about you. You know how to survive. You've got cameras. Great. What haven't you got? You haven't got someone to share it with. You don't have someone to share it with. Someone comes along and he actually then starts to have someone to share it with.
Thank God Frank was a good person.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I was like, don't trust him. Like, he could have guys in the tree line. over there.
well, that's it though, and that's how he would have been thinking.
Well, he would have
That's
done,
how he
yeah.
would have been
It's a
thinking.
shame because I really like Nick Offerman and I really like Murray Bartlett.
Yeah.
One episode. We only get one episode of
I
those
know,
guys. It's
I
just a
know.
bit like,
But it was such a well done episode.
It was.
It was brilliantly done, and
I would
obviously,
have liked to see Nick
I loved
Offerman
it.
later. But yeah.
but obviously, it changes it completely. So instead of Bill still being around, obviously they die together, if you like.
Yeah.
But him and Joel and Tess, there's a cut.
There's like a preamble bit
They
to
do
show
that.
their
Yeah, so
sort
in the
of-
show they give it the
yeah,
background.
they had like a business relationship.
So they show that relationship. Don't
yeah.
they? They
Yeah.
don't cut it off completely.
Really
but
great.
Yeah.
I'm just
really,
sad that Ellie and Bill didn't get that
Yes,
dialogue.
yeah.
Because it would have
True.
been so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Nick Offerman was
Yeah, because
amazing.
Bella
It
is
was-
fantastic.
Yeah.
as well, so.
So again, very different. And I noticed the TV show had mixed opinions, but I thought it was brilliant.
Well,
that episode.
Well, guess what? Guess who gave up the bad opinions?
Yes, exactly.
well, I know I'm talking loads here. I do apologise.
No, it's
but
fine, it's fine.
I've just got I had so much to say on it.
Yeah.
But there's again. I looked at some. Again, there was another like a snippet. I think a trailer or something of one of the episodes. I think it was that. No, it was episode. Which one was that one? 3.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was a trailer for 4, and there was a lot of feedback on 3
Yeah.
on this post. It might have been Facebook. And there was all these people sort of saying, Bill wasn't gay in the game.
Whoosh.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't say anything. And I
no,
don't-
it's
you
not
can't
worth
get-
it.
They need to speak to the
It's
drunk
not
man.
worth
And
it.
I just thought to myself, really?
Da-da-da.
Like, honestly,
Drunk man.
please go back and play it again and just like
Pay some attention.
Pay attention. Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious, not obvious type thing. But if you
Yeah.
played it properly and you've really soaked it up,
Oh no, they've
Come
gayed
on.
the characters. Oh no,
Oh,
why
shut
did
up.
they do that?
Look,
Oh,
deal with
no.
it. And it's just such a great little spin on the
Yeah,
story.
it was beautifully
it's
done,
brilliant.
yeah.
It's great.
But there was some levity at the end, which they kept in. I was glad. It's in the game, and it was at the end of that episode, I think, and it showed a bit more of Joel and Ellie's character development. Ellie snuck one of the magazines out, and they're driving off in the truck.
Yeah, and she's opening it up.
She's in the back, and she's going, "Whoa!" And she says, "How does he walk around with that thing?" And Joel, in obviously typical dad fashion, he's kind of like going bright red. He's like, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just messing with you." But it's funny. It's funny.
Seriously, how do those guys walk around? Anyway,
Don't know.
how do you do it, Keith?
Long
How do you do it?
socks. long socks.
Wheelbarrow. Okay, back to the gameplay just quickly. So this section is where you first meet a bloater.
Oh God!
Yes.
Now, this is the only thing I have issue with, but yeah, go on.
Okay, the bloater first
Sound
appeared.
effects. What do bloaters sound like?
That was good.
Yeah,
There you go.
James
Just like
is quite
that.
good. The old sound effects.
So the bloater first appeared in episode 4, I think, of
Yes.
the show.
Very differently
Yeah.
to how it appeared in
Yes,
the game.
yeah, it's all out of the
As
ground.
I found out.
In the game.
Oh, they came out the ground, didn't they?
Yeah,
When,
in the game.
So in the game, it's in the gym.
Yeah.
It's a gym.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a school gym.
Yeah.
School gym.
Yeah.
And you walk into the gym,
Yeah.
and there's just like it's just sort of wrecked, and then all of a sudden this thing bursts through the double
Yeah,
doors.
so
at
what,
the
I
end.
mean, I suppose it's one of the small complaints you could maybe throw at this game is there's not a huge variety of enemies. There's either other people. No, it doesn't bother me, but there's other people. There's infected. There's clickers, and then there's the bloaters, which are, I suppose, sort of boss. It's sort of a boss fight. The first one because you don't really know how to deal with it.
Well, they're a much larger
They're
kind of
basically,
clicker, aren't they?
Aid. Basically, the fungus has now developed, so it's like covered them in almost like an armor of, and so you can't just take them down like you would normally. And they also shoot spores out, don't they?
Yeah.
And if they land anywhere near you, they can do
Yeah, like a
like a ball of
gas
yeah.
sort of thing, yeah.
But again, if you've got plenty of Molotovs, you can do. Yeah,
Hello.
They
You
are-
are right about that. Molotov's the way to go.
they
for
are the
bloaters,
best
I tell
for the
you.
bloater. Yeah, you just.
He hates them.
Yeah,
And he just stands there going,
yeah,
Burn, burn, burn.
yeah.
Burn.
So, Aid, were you going to say something about the bloater? No, do you just
Make
want?
a joke, but it's not very funny.
Oh, okay.
well, there's
I was gonna
there's
say-
Getting a bit
bloaters.
bloated.
I was going to say they didn't really bloat out the characters in the enemies.
Thanks for that.
It wasn't worth it.
So, so from here, driving into Pittsburgh, PA,
Yes.
not Philadelphia, PA,
Yep.
but Pittsburgh,
Yeah,
PA.
but you love Pennsylvania.
He loves PA.
Adrian likes Pennsylvania.
Joel and Elliot ambushed by bandits and their car is wrecked. Again, I like the way they did. They replicated this basically
Yeah.
shot for shot in the show. This is a very cool moment. So, for your benefit, Ada, and anyone who hasn't played or seen it, this guy, they're driving into town and this guy comes out of nowhere and he's like, oh, he looks like he's injured. He's like, oh, stop, help. Oh. And
Nope.
Joel carries on driving and he's like, we're not going to stop. We're not going to help him. He's like, nope. It's an ambush. He's like, he's seen it before. Yeah. So people come
That
out.
old
They
chestnut.
send a car down the hill, I think, to try and smash into him, and they end up crashing, and there's a big shootout. But yeah, he's seen it all before. He's been on the other side. He says that to her, doesn't he? Like he's been on the other side of it. And she's like, "Oh, do you kill a lot of innocent people?"
We're just going to gloss over that
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Joel.
Joel. Moving
you ragamuffin.
swiftly on to Henry and Sam.
You rapscallion.
Oh God.
I'm going to take a bite of this sandwich
Have a
before
bite
you
of the
eat about
sandwich.
Henry and Sam.
Dylan needs some sustenance.
Dylan needs to fortify himself before we speak about Henry and Sam. So while they're in Pennsylvania, they're basically trying to hide from bandits. Obviously, in all good post-apocalyptic fiction, Walking Dead, whatever, there's always other groups, factions of people that are out to get you.
As you would.
Again, TV show. This was interesting because it gave you a nice look at it from the other side. In the game, they're just enemies trying to kill you.
So,
In the show, they humanize them.
I haven't got that far yet. I've done the bloater in the gym. Yeah.
In the game,
Yeah.
but you've done it in the show.
Yeah, the show.
So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
was
yeah.
the episode, yeah.
But so I'm probably no. In fact, I'm ahead.
So are we about
I'm
to
ahead
hit-
of the show
Okay.
versus the game.
You're further ahead in the show.
Correct.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I've, so I've
okay.
killed the bloater in the gym, and then we've gone past that bit. But that's about it.
So that's
So I
so.
know
Have
of-
you come to the bit with the ambush in the game?
No. So
Ah,
I know
okay.
Henry. So I know Henry. Have I come to the ambush? I can't remember. I may have got to that,
Right,
but I don't
okay.
think anything past that. So Henry and Sam I know of in the show, but not the game yet.
Oh, well, you'll meet them soon in the game. So yeah, so in the TV show, this was the episode with Melanie Linsky in, she was really good. And yeah, it humanized the bandits, and just gave you it from another angle. And yet Sam and his older brother Henry, again, they give a lot more backstory in the show than in the game. They were part of this other group. They're now out to get Henry. It's completely slipped my mind why, but don't worry about that. And I thought this was an interesting choice for them to make Sam.
Henry was a rat, wasn't he, or something?
Oh yes,
I think he killed someone.
and he was responsible
He was ratting
for
them
her.
out to Fedra, wasn't
yeah,
he? It was
for
her brother. Her brother.
brother dying.
Yes, well done.
it? Yeah,
well done. They don't go into any of that in the game. In the game, they're fully like 100% sort of sympathetic characters, aren't they? Henry's looking out for his younger brother. In the TV show, Sam was deaf. I'm not sure why they went down that route. I'm not really sure. He wasn't in the game.
You feel even more sorry.
Yeah, I guess it adds
Yeah, a
another
bit of
aspect to the characters
empathy
and their
/ sympathy, I
relationship.
suppose.
Yeah, but they team up. Joel reluctantly, but I think they do save each other's lives at various points. There's a cool section here. Again, I'm spoiling it for you, James.
No,
but
listen, carry on.
in
I'm
the
looking forward
sewer.
to it.
So there's another sewer section that you kind of pass through, but they find
The school.
Yeah, they basically actually they did show the school in the show.
did, yeah.
They
It was
basically
so
find
cool,
signs of a whole community that were
Yeah.
living underground. And they show bits of the school classroom that they've built in the TV show. But in the game, there's even more of it. There's like a whole. You can go wandering around for a while. There's like a whole like underground, but they built some showers, and you can read like the rules about how long you can be in the shower.
Yeah.
Like proper the rules about usage of water, and if this happens, your shower privileges get taken away. Devastating. There's all but there's also there's a locked room that you go into, and there's some very small corpses covered with sheets, and there's also like references to their heroes, their protectors, and it's all very sad. But it's again, it's interesting to sort of just explore it and see how people were living and surviving 20 years after this outbreak. But there is another devastating moment later on.
Gordon Bennett.
So at one point when they're attacked, he manages to hide it, but Sam gets bitten.
Yep. He got bit.
He got bit. In the show, he does show Ellie, and she knows.
Yeah.
In the game, it's a complete surprise.
Yes.
But it ends similarly. They come bursting out of the room. He's on top of Ellie trying to eat her face.
Yeah.
Joel freezes because he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And Henry has to shoot his own brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Realizing what he's done.
He first points the gun at Joel and blames him. But then he points the gun at himself. And before Joel can do anything, he blows his own brains out.
Yeah.
And it was just...
that part's the same as the show, isn't it?
Oh.
But it's just gutting.
Yeah,
Because-
it is.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
in the show, I was thinking to myself, okay, these two guys are going to be like really, really good, like help to
companions,
Ellie, 'cause they
yeah.
knows the area. I mean, and do you know what? An interesting thing when I was thinking about Sam being deaf, I was like, that's quite handy because when you're in a situation where you have got clickers and stuff like that, and you need to communicate, those two know sign language.
Yeah, of course.
Which, So I don't know whether they did that as maybe a
Maybe.
little, but they never used it because obviously,
No.
but maybe that's what they were going for because how they've survived, they've managed to get around by being silent. Basically,
Yeah.
But that was hard because you saw he had a bite and you were like, shh.
There's nothing. There's no coming back from it.
And then in the show, Ellie tries
Oh,
to...
bless her.
She
Yeah.
cuts her own hand and puts some blood on his wound in an attempt to
It's not how science works.
It's not how science, but she doesn't know.
No,
it's like
but-
a naive kind of, how can I help him?
Yeah, but it's nice that they've kind of scrubbed that off because in certain kind of circles in films or TV shows, whatever, that might have been possible. They might have simplified it for the layman, and gone, just put some blood on it.
Yeah.
But they've kind of scrubbed that off the list. You can't just use the blood. It has to be kind of,
You've got to find
modified
yeah.
and whatever. But that was a hard one to
It
watch,
was.
especially when he shot himself. I was like,
Well, he didn't know what to do, and he's like, "Why?
His face was like he had no.
How do you live with that?
It was
How do you live
awful.
with that? Oh,
You can't. That's it. You knew it.
And now I've got to
Terrible.
live it again because
and you've got to relive it,
Yeah.
But they're such positive, they're kind of positive characters as well. And there's a scene in the game where like Joel and Henry are talking about motorbikes and stuff and what they would
they get
do.
ripped from you early
and then
again.
it's just like so. It's like
Taken away again.
it's like letting that little glimpse of light in, and then it's like no, gone,
Savages.
gone. This world,
man.
not in this world. So they very sadly move on. It's autumn. Joel and Ellie eventually find Tommy in Jackson, Wyoming. So it's quite I like this in the game, and they did it in the TV show the way you can kind of track their journey across America. And they find Tommy at a settlement near a hydroelectric dam where he's now settled down with his wife Maria. To make it a bit more gamey, you have to help defend the dam while they're repairing it. They get attacked by bandits. This was another cool sort of difference from the game. So their settlement is in Jackson. There's like they've got a whole town. They've got electricity. They've got shops. They've got this brilliantly organized little community. Yeah, it's brilliant. They've got this brilliant little community. But in the first game, you don't see it.
No.
All of this stuff with Tommy takes place at the dam, which is just outside the town.
Gotcha.
So you meet Tommy and you meet his wife and you get an idea of how they're living, but you don't actually go into the town.
All right.
The start, we won't talk about it much, but the second game, you get to experience all that at the beginning, what it's like in Jackson. But yeah, obviously in the TV show, you go straight in there and it is very much like it is in part 2, isn't it? It all looks very similar and it gives them this taste of what their lives could be in the future.
What a bit of normality looks like.
Yeah,
during all
yeah.
this chaos, yeah.
Now there's like a pivotal scene at this part of the game. So this is where Joel decides that he's going to try and get Tommy to take Ellie the rest of the way because he's convinced that if he stays, she's going to get killed. He can't deal with that again because their relationship's sort of been growing, and he's obviously come to care for her. And in the TV show, he talked to Tommy about basically about what just happened. Henry had to shoot his own brother to save Ellie because he froze and he didn't know what to do.
And he was doubting his whole outlook.
Completely
wasn't he?
doubting himself.
Yeah.
Again, in the TV show, they kind of hint that Joel might be having some heart trouble. He has a thought. Maybe they could even be panic attacks.
Yeah.
He
He
struggles.
sort of grabs his
Yeah, his chest, and he
sort of
kind
around
of
his chest, but he's very sort of tight.
Yeah,
isn't he?
yeah, yeah. Again, they don't do that in the game. In the game, he's like Superman. This man gets crashed into, thrown around, shot, stabbed,
Jeez, I mean, that's going to give
drowned.
anyone a panic
Yeah,
attack.
and he comes back. And yeah, there's a very pivotal scene. Ellie sort of realizes what he's trying to do, and they have a big hoo-ha.
Yes.
A
brouhaha.
yeah, I mean,
She ain't having none of it.
No, it's a brilliant scene. And she tells him that, you know, if he was to leave her, she would just be more scared.
Yeah.
And he realizes that he can't leave her. He won't leave her.
No.
So he tells Tommy, and off they go. And he directs them to a Firefly enclave at the University of Eastern Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Not a real university.
No, but I do like having a look around there. Very nice.
Yes, it's very nice. It's very nice.
Nice area.
I quite like
area.
this. I don't know if you remember. Again, they did it in the TV show as they ride in. He's trying to explain the rules of American football to Ellie.
Yes.
It's like, so that's a first down, and then you get 4 more down.
I feel like people gloss over when we try and do that.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they find that so obviously they're hoping to find the science lab where they're working on a cure. It's been abandoned. The
Nada.
only life there appears to be monkeys or baboons.
Yep.
And they learn there that the Fireflies have moved on. They find a couple of recordings. They find some papers and stuff to sort of indicates that they've moved on, and they moved on to Salt Lake City. But at that point, they're attacked by bandits.
Ugh.
And Joel is severely wounded while escaping.
So this is different in the
It's different because in the game there's no way you survive what happens to him in the game. So in the TV show, just before they're about to ride off, he gets jumped.
Yeah.
Is it a baseball bat? But it snaps in half.
It's a snapped end of a baseball bat which goes into his
It goes
stomach.
into his sort of liver area, kidney area.
Ay, caramba.
But in the game, he's fighting this guy, and they fall off like the first floor platform.
Yeah.
And he lands on something. And now, do you remember in Shaun of the Dead? You know when the zombie cashier is in their back garden?
Yes.
And he pushes her over,
Yeah.
and she falls on that metal pole,
Yes.
and then stands up, and she's got a big hole through the middle of her.
Yeah.
Basically that.
So
That's basically what happens to
he
him.
survives from a hole.
Survive that.
From a hole in his
Basically
body.
does. So he falls, and that's So whereas in the TV show he's been stabbed quite severely.
Yeah, but it's not
a
gone
much
through.
more severe.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't stand up and have a big hole, but that's what this injury would cause.
Yeah.
And like again in the TV show, somehow he's able to get himself on the back of the horse that they're riding on.
That's right. Yeah.
They escape. And again, they show it in the game and the TV show. He's lost a lot of blood.
Yeah.
He eventually falls off the horse.
Yeah.
Ellie's into it. She doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Come on, Joel. Come on.
I mean,
And
seriously, she just this makes her.
It does. And then the screen fades to black. And now this was such a great moment in the game.
Got to in the TV show.
Is it? Oh no! Spoiler alert!
Sorry, James.
Do it.
Oh,
I'm braced.
man,
I'm braced.
I hate spoiling it though.
No, I don't care.
hate spoiling
I'm
it.
braced.
So they handled this slightly different in the TV show, but we won't worry about that now. So the screen fades to black, and then as it comes back in, it's now winter. There's snow everywhere.
Oh God!
And you're controlling Ellie. And now when the game came out, this was a big big surprise, because I think they indicated that you would be controlling Joel throughout the game. But no,
red
here
herring
you are.
there,
Yeah. And you're out in the snow, in the woods, hunting for food. Because she's managed to get Joel, who's obviously like mortally wounded. She's hidden him in a house, but he's on the brink of death. She has to look after him, so she's gone out hunting for food, and she does manage, or you manage, to hunt a deer with a bow and arrow, no less.
Bow and arrow. So this is different from the show.
Yes, in the show she has a rifle, which is more realistic, because when would she have learnt to use the bow and arrow?
I know how to use a bow and arrow.
Do you? I want to know how one works.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to fire a real one? It's
No.
not so,
And even
it's not so easy.
Moreover, do you know how to kill a deer with
Yeah,
one?
exactly.
No.
No.
But while she's out hunting, she encounters 2 strangers,
Oh God.
David and James.
Nice people.
In the show,
They're nice
James,
names.
in the
James.
show, James is
David
played
James.
by
Troy Baker,
Troy
who
Baker.
voiced Joel.
Troy Baker, who
Good spot,
voiced,
good
who
spot.
voiced Joel,
Yeah.
has a little
He
cameo
does.
as James.
As James.
Not Troy Aikman.
Now they're
Not Troy Aikman.
they're scavengers who are willing to trade medicine for food.
Yes.
And what does Ellie need for Joel?
Medicine.
Some antibiotics. Yeah.
Antibiotics.
Antibiotics.
Stat.
Yeah. So they seem trustworthy.
Yeah,
totally. So
there's nothing fishy about this.
No.
thing you've
So
ever said.
David sends James off to get the antibiotics. James is very suspicious about it all, but David, he talks very calmly, very quietly.
Exactly.
David in the game is voiced by Nolan North, who I don't know, he's a famous name in video game voice acting. He's I think he's Nathan Drake in the Uncharted games.
Oh, well,
but
famous
he's done
enough,
he's done a lot of video game stuff. And they, it's very cold, so they find some shelter. They make a campfire while they wait for him to come back from town with the medicine. And after a little bit of back and forth and a little bit of chit chat, it turns out that he knows who she is. In the sense that the group of bandits that attacked them at the university were part of his group. And he talked about the story they told of a madman who killed all their friends who was travelling with a little girl. Yes.
All good.
So at that point, after actually going, you have to go through a couple of gameplay sections where you sort of team up. Mm-hmm. There's a load of zombies sort of attack the cabin you're in.
Yeah, you're kind of walking around.
Yeah, and you have to
down.
take them down with David.
Yep.
So at that point, it's all very cooperative.
You're like, oh, David's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I'm helping him out. He's going to give me some medicine.
But once and you do get the medicine.
Yes,
He does come back with the medicine.
he does. There's
David.
true to
Yeah.
his word.
But at the point she realizes what's going on, she escapes, and she goes back to Joel, gives him the medicine, tries to tell him what's happening. He's
Yeah.
basically half dead.
Yes.
But she decides she's going to try and lead them away because obviously they've tracked her back to where she's staying.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm going to lead them away from Joel, keep him safe. And unfortunately, they do catch her.
Yes.
At this point, you find out that David and his group are cannibals.
Hooray! Hooray for cannibalism!
Like we said, needs must. You know?
So
No, it's venison. It's venison.
It's venison.
It's venison.
yeah.
It's venison.
So she wakes up in a cage, in like a kitchen somewhere. He does offer her some food, but she's seen like a stray ear on the floor, because you can see where they've been chopping people up. So now in the TV show, as you're about to find out, James, again, you get a lot more backstory here. It turns out that David's group is quite religious.
Yes.
He was a preacher, and it's all very much he will provide and this kind of thing.
Cult type thing.
Yeah, well, I would say so. Yeah, he's clearly ruling through fear as well. And yes, they've run out of food, and it turns out they've been cooking people.
been cooking people.
Yes. But at this
I
point,
mean, those people were dead.
yeah,
I don't know if they killed them.
did they
They're
kill
dead.
them? I don't know.
I don't know.
But it seemed, it's not a group you
Like
really.
in a life.
This is not
Well,
a
it's not
group you
what
want to
not.
be part
There
of.
was a group in Walking Dead that was,
Oh, the cannibals.
yeah, they were the somethings.
How old were these cannibals? Were they
Fine and
children?
young.
Yes.
I was already there.
Oh
man.
man,
Good one.
you didn't go there.
Drives me crazy. So yeah, David's trying to paint this picture of like, join me, come part of our group. It's all going to be nice, and she's not stupid. She sort of lulls him a bit in. He's a bit creepy. He kind of lulls. She tries to lull him into a false sense of security. Puts his hand through the cage, and she puts her hand on it. It's all a bit creepy, and then she breaks his finger.
Yeah, have that.
And that's it. He's asked her a name and she didn't tell him. And then as he's leaving, he's like, you know what? We'll chop you up into little pieces. And he's like, and she shouts out, Ellie. And he's like, what? He said, Ellie's the name of the little girl who just broke your fucking finger.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So good.
At any point, does she shout, "We're caught in a trap"?
No.
We caught it in a trap.
And I can't get it.
No, she's too young to know Elvis. She's too young to know.
I couldn't. That wasn't
Or
as good
Fine
as
Young
yours.
Cannibals.
Yeah.
The thing
It's
is
a
that,
cover, didn't it, that song?
but she loves a heart.
Yeah.
She loves a heart. So why wouldn't
course.
she love Fine Young Cannibals?
She does love a heart.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned that.
No. Mention it. She loves a heart.
Ellie loves a heart.
You've ruined the game now. You've ruined it. That fact has ruined it now.
Well, you don't get any hint of that in the game, do you? But in the TV show,
Only when she
'Cause it's
does
kind of a
the
callback
in two.
in part 2.
That is cool.
Maybe we'll talk more about it then.
Yes. Yes.
So David comes back with James, his friend. They get her up on the butcher's table.
Yep.
There's a-
Butcher's
there's
table.
a-
Butcher's block.
Butcher's
A butcher's
block,
block, if
that's
you will.
And they're about to chop her up, and then she's like, I'm infected. And they're like, nah, whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, look. So she's because she's got scarring from the wound.
Yeah.
But, and so they're distracted. And at that point, she grabs the meat cleaver, puts it in poor old James's neck and shoulder.
Troy's gone.
Troy's gone. Yep. And she manages to sort of run away in the panic. And they're hunting her down. Meanwhile, Joel was magically revived with the magic antibiotic.
These antibiotics are bloody good.
They are
mate.
strong.
They are bloody good. Like,
He's not quite fighting fit,
No.
but he has to make his way
He's good
down.
enough. You're good enough. You're good enough. aren't
Yeah,
you?
he has to make his way down to sort of find where she is. And on his way, he does manage to capture a couple of the
'cause
group.
He's just like
But this is another brutal scene.
brutal.
So he's got two of them. He's got one chained up over there. He's got one in the chair. You can clearly see he's beating the crap out of both of them. He's got a little map. He's like, you're going to point to exactly where we are and exactly where they are on this map. With your teeth, he gives him like a pen or puts a knife in his teeth so he can point to it. He's like, your answer better be the same as your friends. So he's asked them both to do it. Why they can't see. So he does it. He's like, he's already put a knife in his kneecap. He's like, I'll pop your kneecap out if you don't tell me. So it's properly brutal stuff. And he points to him and it kills him dead. And then he goes over to his mate in the corner and he's like, oh, you didn't have to kill him. He told you what you wanted to know. He's like, I'm not telling you nothing. And he goes, it's all right. I believe him. And then he just bashes his head in with a metal pole. It's fantastic.
Nice.
Fantastic. But yeah, so antibiotics, thumbs up.
They shouldn't have given him such strong ones.
Yeah.
Shouldn't they? Slow release.
So this is another cool section. So switch back to playing as Ellie. There's a blizzard on. So she's tried to escape in. It's like a little seaside resort, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's out in a blizzard. You've not got a lot of resources. You haven't really got much in the way of ammo and guns. And they're trying to hunt you down. And then eventually she gets cornered by David in a restaurant, which catches fire. And everything's wood. So there's a big fire.
I love it.
This is like the only proper boss fight in the game.
Yeah.
There's like broken plates everywhere. So you're crawling around. If he sees you, he shoots you.
Yeah.
So you have to try and keep out of the way. And then you have to distract him by throwing the bottle, like glass bottles at him. And then you can go up and like give him a shiv. And you have to do it 3 times, I think. And that triggers a cutscene. And he gets the drop on her and he's on top of her. And basically it gets very uncomfortable. And he's very much, you don't know what I'm capable of. And let's be honest, he's about to rape her.
Yeah.
And in the game, you're crawling she's kind of crawling on the floor and you can see like a machete under a chair and you're like,
Get that machete.
hammering the button, like, get the machete. And again, they do it very similarly in the TV show. And she manages to grab it just in time and just like machete in the face.
Yeah.
But then it all comes out and she's on top of him and she's machete until there's nothing left. They don't show it because they show it from like the floor up, if you like. So she's on top and there's just blood flying up and machete.
He got what was coming to him.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then Joel in the game, it was weird they did this slightly differently in the show. In the game, Joel bursts in at that point.
Yeah.
And she's so like, she turns and he grabs her and she almost attacks him.
Yeah, they wanted to show that she kind of stopped herself rather than him stopping her, isn't it?
But she's like, she doesn't realise it's him at first, and he's like, it's me, and she's like, he was trying to, and this was the bit that got me when I played it. I will be brutally honest, I cried at this bit. I was like, oh my god, when he hugs her and he goes, calls her baby girl for the first time. I was in pieces. I was in pieces. And they did it slightly differently in the TV show. She sort of does that and then escapes from the burning restaurant. Then Joel turns up and the same thing happens. But it was such like, after going through that, because she's so defenseless, and he's about to do this monstrous thing, and she just lets all the emotion out, man. It's just like,
I can't remember whether it was the show or the game. I want to say the game, but I could be wrong here. He specifically says during one of the episodes, "You're not my daughter, and I'm not your dad."
That's the big scene in the cabin that I was talking about when he has that change of heart about whether he's going to leave her. Or,
That's right. And he specifically says it.
Yeah.
And he says, and she's like, "Oh, okay, whatever," sort of thing. And you almost at that point you can tell deep down.
Yeah,
you're like, you've got an attachment to this girl, and you are.
It's a defense mechanism, isn't it?
Yeah,
he's trying to put up that.
We
barrier,
all know that you're acting like the father figure already.
Yeah.
So let's not try and pretend that you're kind of being this heartless git who doesn't want anything to do with her. So, but when that bit comes up, that's going to be a real kind of. Moment.
It was massive. That was massive for me. Like, I've never experienced that playing a video game, especially at that point. Like, what the hell? This is kind of thing like an amazing film might do, a TV show. And that was the moment that really hit me. Fantastic. So Joel was magically recovered from his wounds, and they finally arrive in Salt Lake City.
Oh God.
So this is quite cool. They play this slightly. So at this point, Ellie's clearly recovering from what happened. She's very distracted. She's very quiet and subdued. And Joel is feeling a bit more upbeat, I think. And he's trying to talk to her about stuff. And she's very like distracted. There's a point where you need to call her to come and get the ladder. You know, sometimes have to boost her up to go and get stuff. And he has to call her a couple of times because she's kind of just like distracted away with the fairies.
Clever, you know. It's just like you can actually see the emotion.
And then she's snapped out of that. But again, it's another brilliant scene that's the game is kind of famous for, where she calls Joel. She's like, "Come and look at this," and you get your sort of a few floors up, and a couple of giraffes are just wandering past.
Yeah, beautiful.
And the giraffe comes up, and it comes close enough that they can pet it. And they're looking out, and you can just see these giraffes, like a herd of giraffe, walking across this park in Salt Lake City. They've obviously escaped from a zoo somewhere, and it's such a brilliant moment. And they put that back in. Apparently, one of the motifs of the game was supposed to be that life goes on. Like, despite that, you know, Joel lost his daughter. All these terrible things that can happen.
Yeah,
life
it was
goes
nice.
on.
Oh God! Again, I think it was the TV show where there was like a field full of, I think it was bison.
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
And it prompted a conversation between me and Carolyn, my wife. We were sort of saying, like, you never really consider that actually whether animals would be affected by something like that, because they're organic, you know, they're organic beings, aren't they? So you sort of think, well, there's a whole nother conversation about. So it's clearly only targeted and
Evolved
modified,
to humans.
evolved. That's what to affect humans, but not the animals, which is quite poetic in a way, because humans have caused so much damage that the animals obviously
the animals are kind of thriving.
And they're the ones now that are kind of almost free of it, because presumably, and I don't know whether there's any information anywhere in the universe, the Last of Us universe, is there anything about why the infected don't attack animals, or
I think they do, right? It's just some animals have just avoided them.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think
infected really
infected would just go for anything,
which is great, but
I think infected would just go for anything. I think it just that those sort of pockets of animals.
Yeah, it could just be that you know, the city was.
It's just an interesting conversation that came up. Why didn't it?
Why only humans? Yeah,
other organic beings. So but
although I've got a theory that those giraffes were infected horses, and that's what happened.
They mutated into.
They mutate their necks get really long, and they somehow
it's coral neck.
Coral neck. Case of coral necks. So this bit kind of reignites Ellie's lust for life. It's a nice positive thing, and they're working their way towards the hospital.
Oh no!
Oh,
Now there's another
don't say that.
There's another very stressful moment because they have to go again through like a sewer. It's like an underpass, but it's flooded, and there's some jumping and pallets and things. There's a few more bloaters here, but by this point you should
be underpass.
You should be well equipped to deal with all the enemies. But there is a section where you get trapped in a bus underwater and you're almost drowned.
Stressing.
Yeah, very stressful. Ellie's trying to help you get out because the door's kind of sealed shut. And basically you do get out, but in the chaos, Ellie, who can't swim, has ended up almost drowning. He drags her out of the water. He's trying to bring her back to life, but some Firefly soldiers appear, knock him out. He doesn't know what's happened. He wakes up in the hospital bed.
That's funny because I've just remembered in the show she can swim, right? Because that's how they get to the flashback thing and how they get to that weird museum.
I don't think there's any.
Isn't it?
I don't think she's out of her depth, though, is she?
I can't remember now.
I don't think
there's
she's out of
bits
her
where
depth.
to get to that bit they have to swim. So she can. I'm pretty sure she can swim in it. There's
In
not.
the game,
it would be boring if
in
there
the
was
game she can't swim.
There'd be whole sections where you have to go and get pallets and
in
stuff.
the show. In the show when they get
Joel,
into
get
that
me a pallet.
abandoned museum.
But they don't have to swim under anything, do they? In the show,
Well, they don't they?
I can't remember.
Yeah, there is a bit. I'm pretty sure. I'll watch it again.
So it'd be interesting to see in the last episode how they deal with this bit then.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so Joel wakes up in the hospital. Marlene is there.
Hooray!
Marlene. Not that Marlene. Marlene tells Joel that Ellie's being prepped for surgery. She survived. She didn't drown.
Hooray!
Hooray! In hopes of producing a vaccine for the infection, the Fireflies must remove the infected portion of Ellie's brain.
That can't end well.
What do you think that would do? No, exactly. It's going to kill her.
Memory.
The operation is
okay.
no. The operation is going to kill her.
No.
And, yeah, Joel. At this point, she's like, you go now.
Yeah.
Well done for getting her here. Now, here's your guns. Basically, get out. And obviously, she says to the soldier because she knows he's probably like, "Hang on, I'm not happy about this.
Yeah.
Make sure he gets out." Their soldiers are useless. He takes him out, no problem. And now, basically, this whole section is basically one big battle through the hospital against like
Joel versus everyone.
Joel versus the world. Yeah,
It's awesome.
it's brilliant. And
Take him down, boy.
He's basically, and there's no real time to kind of stop and think about what you're doing. I think the game wants you to ask the question afterwards.
Yeah.
But having played through the game, having experienced the characters, their relationship and stuff, you're like, I'm not letting Ellie die on an operating table.
Hell knows.
Hell no.
Hell's no.
So you're right there. Like this, I don't care if these are innocent people. I'm going to murder however many hundreds of them as it takes to get there.
Damn.
So you're fighting your way through the hospital. It's probably the most action-packed section, isn't
Yeah.
it? Because they're all human enemies.
You can
They're
do
all
a stealth to a degree, but I felt I just went mad.
Yeah. At this point, you can get a proper machine gun as well, can't you?
Yeah.
And yeah, they're firing back at you. There's lots of cover shooting stuff. It's pure chaos. And then eventually you get to the operating room. Now here, no one's really armed.
Nope.
They're about to operate. She's in gown and intubated.
Have
and
this,
everything.
mofos.
And they're like, "What are you doing?" And the surgeon gets his scalpel and he's but basically, you don't have a choice here. This is a game with a story. It's not a game where you, the player, get to choose what happens.
No.
Right, yeah.
You cannot proceed until you kill these people in the room.
They're dead.
So
They're dead.
you shoot the surgeon and the nurse and whoever else is in there, and you grab sweep Ellie off the operating table.
Half a skull's missing.
No,
but
that's not that
Bit
far.
late.
And then there are more fireflies trying to hunt you down. You do have to be on your toes here. You have to get to the elevator and get down. You get down into the basement or the parking garage, and then you confront Marlene. She's like, this is what she would have wanted, but again, it's like full parent mode. Like, you're not killing my child. I don't care how many billions of lives it could save.
Yeah.
He shoots Marlene, of course he does.
Bam.
You're dead.
You're dead.
You're dead.
Oh, you're dead.
Never in doubt, is it?
Yeah, so he shoots and kills her to prevent the fireflies from pursuing them. And that's it. And so the next scene is them driving out of the city. Ellie's sort of still unconscious. She slowly wakes up on the back seat. When she does come to, Joel basically lies to her, says that they found loads of people like her. They've done loads of tests. They weren't able to. They don't need her, but they haven't been able to find the cure. But there was lots of people like her, so she didn't need to worry about it. And that was it. And then they go back to Jackson, and this is the very famous ending of the game. They're outside Tommy's settlement, so again, you don't actually get to see it in this game. And she asks him, "Is that what really happened?" She kind of, because she's got suspicions.
She ain't stupid.
She gives him an opportunity to tell the truth.
All the brains on his jacket probably gave it away.
She gives it. She says, "Is it all true?" And it's brilliant. This is computer graphics, but it was so well acted, and they're looking at each other, and he says, "Yes, that was true. What I told you was true."
Do, right?
And
you wouldn't tell her, "Oh my god, they were going to kill you."
No, and the last shot, it lingers on her face, and she kind of looks at him, and you can see it's like and she just says, "Okay," and that's it. It ends.
He must have conflict there, though, in terms of he's got a choice of either to tell her the brutal truth or to barefaced lie to her.
You can tell that she has an inkling that that's not what happened. But it's so great. And so that's the end. They lean into the ramifications of that decision in the second game. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that before we finish. But yeah, it's such a great ending. And it's that thing of what would you do? What would you do? And because people who've talked about the game since have said, you are the villain. Joel is the villain of the game. It was Ellie's choice, which he takes away from her. And that potentially could have saved the world.
Yeah.
Could have saved the world, but because his like parental feeling, you know, his feelings of love towards her overrode everything.
I'm sorry.
And it's pure selfishness.
Yeah, I don't care what anyone says.
No, I'm the
sorry.
same.
I'm sorry.
James,
I will put my hand up and say this, and you can disagree with anyone can disagree with as much as you like. If my child, if I think about how that would look, you, mate, I would cut the world in half.
Exactly.
I would destroy every ounce of anyone who even try. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely,
the
100%
rage
agree.
would never end. Yeah, and I say that without.
But James,
compromise.
if the sacrifice could save millions of lives,
to me, that's you know, and I know you could sit there and go, "Oh, well, it's going to save lives." This and that. I'd be gone, dead and buried, because if I made that decision the other way, because you could never live with yourself because that's your child. No.
But it's fantastic. Oh, yeah, I mean that's it. A lot of people have said that, you know, Joel is the villain, and I've never really seen it that way because. But I think the game does such a great job there because you don't have choices, and by the time you get to that hospital section, you're like, I don't care who's in the way.
You're so deep, aren't you?
You care so much for these characters. You're like, you're going to save her no matter what. And then at the end of the game, it gets you to think. Well, I can kind of see the other point of view, but you know, what would you have done?
But then you've got to what you've got to say to yourself is look at that situation in the game. The idea being is that you've only got two choices. Effectively, there is a glimmer of a third choice. In that there may be someone else somewhere else that is able to do this without killing someone. So do you know what I mean? There's always that glimmer of, well, if there's another option, even if there's a 0.001% chance of another option, I'll take it because it means that you're not going to harm my child. Okay, yes, they're not, you know, but to him at that point, that's, you know, she's his.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and he's there to look after it in however whatever that means. And if that means killing a building full of people, so be it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, and there might be people out there going, "Oh, you're a maniac." I'm not a maniac. I'm a dad.
Yeah.
I'm a dad.
That's
and if I'm thinking of like literally right now, the image of one of my boys on an operating table with people, mate, I'm telling you now,
man,
your ass is grass and I'm the lawnmower.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, you'll be gone. You'll be dust.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I mean, if I tried to do what Joel did, I'd be dead. But you know,
Well, true. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be like, go Joel, I'm dead. Okay, fine.
The scalpel would get you first.
The scalpel.
My one weakness.
not the scalpel.
The return of the shiv.
The shiv. Return of the shiv.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Whoa.
So
You stabbed at me.
You lied. You shivved at me.
yes, you did. Yes, you did. Anyway, so that's the plot of the game. We'll try and blast through to the end because I know I've taken a while on this, but so there might be.
That's my fault.
Sorry. No, it's my fault as well. But there's an aspect of the TV show you're probably thinking, why haven't they mentioned that yet? So there was some DLC called Left Behind. That was released for the PS3 game in 2014 and then was included as part of the PS4 remaster. So you will be able to play it. Basically, the episode with Riley.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the mall.
That is in the mall. Yeah. That is basically a big chunk of the content of Left Behind.
Oh, see. Okay.
So it's
I've never played that.
Oh, have you not?
I thought it was new. Yeah, that's new information. That's new information. I'm going to go play it. That's new information.
He's got something new to play.
It's new information.
He's all excited now. Look at him. Look, he's just.
I like it.
Breaking news on
was
this
falling asleep over there
9-year-old
until
DLC.
I honestly thought that section where they're
on the show?
going back to where she was sitting was all made up by the people of the show.
Nope.
I can play it.
You can play it.
I want to play it.
It would have been. So you bought the PS4 version, didn't you?
Yes, I've
it
got
would
it.
have been included.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a couple of
Oh my
hours
God.
long, I think. So a big chunk of it is that.
Amazing.
So you get to see their relationship,
Amazing.
you know, Ellie and Riley's relationship, how it leads up to Ellie being bitten, and all that. The arcade.
Yeah.
Daytona USA is not in the game, unfortunately.
Ja.
Nor is Mortal Kombat.
Raja's Arcade, though.
Yeah. Yes, Raja's Arcade.
Raja's Arcade.
There's a water pistol fight, which is quite fun. But there's also a section where Ellie is searching an abandoned mall for supplies for Joel during the winter.
Okay.
It's like there's an abandoned military helicopter that's crashed into a mall.
All right.
And she's trying to find like the medical kit
That
and
sounds
stuff.
cool, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's only a couple of hours gameplay. It's definitely worth playing.
Oh.
So yeah, that was originally released in 2014 for the PS3 game, and then it was included as part of the PS4 remaster. Before we look at the reception and legacy of the game, quickly, the remaster and remake. So April 2014, Sony announced The Last of Us Remastered. This was a remastered game for the PS4, came out in 2014, sorry. It uses the DualShock 4's touchpad to navigate the inventory. The light bar signals health, scaling from green to orange and red. And another cool thing about the PS4 controller was the audio recordings.
Yeah.
So in the game, when they play back, they play through the speaker on the controller.
Yeah.
Again, that was the first time I'd experienced that on PS4. That was very cool.
I
Scared the bejesus
You
out of me
haven't got
on the
that
first
far yet?
No.
Or have you?
I'll tell you another thing though. The switching the torch on and off. Yeah. So we're just taking photos here. Look at you. But the switching the torch on and off. I had no idea. About this,
yes.
Right? I had no idea there was a speaker in the controller.
Oh, right.
I've never used a PS4 controller. Yeah. And I literally was, because the first time I played it, when I opened the game, I had the headset on. Right. So obviously I heard nothing out of the controller.
Right.
So I was playing the game as you do on the headset. Great. Boom, boom, boom. But then when I was playing it with old Steve Matey Boy, and he was kind of there giving me a bit of coaching. Yeah. Obviously, I just had the TV on, and we were playing it through TV, and it's like, I was going, where's that coming from? Because I was only playing it because I got two screens. I was playing it on the smaller of the two, just out of the TV speakers, and I was like, where's that coming from? I was literally looking around, like he goes, the speaker in the controller. I went, get out of town. And I didn't know this. I had no idea because, my last PlayStation was PS2.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great.
It's very cool. So later in the game, you find audio recordings. So little dictaphone.
Yeah.
You pick them up, and it plays back through the controller speaker. So it's very cool.
That's mad.
Yeah.
And I just thought that it was a funny
It's a
little
really
touch.
nice
So
touch.
The audio was like in front of me rather than like literally next to me rather than on the TV.
I like with the flashlight, with the torch.
Yeah.
Tick, 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 tick. You have to,
You have to shake.
You have to shake it.
When the batteries go out on the torch, you have to shake the
You have to shake the controller. It's like
they
Imagine Resi 4 though.
Leon.
with that comes through the controller. I'm like,
Oh no, they might do that. Because I've enjoyed it. They've implemented it on a lot of PS5 games, in the latest Madden games. So all the stadium sound comes from like your TV and stuff, but the on-field stuff comes through the speaker. So like it's really cool. Like if you're running with like you can hear the sounds of them catching the ball, and then when you're running, it's like, and you can hear the footsteps on the grass. It's really cool, and it gives like a really cool effect.
Yeah.
So yeah, they might do that.
I can't do that on an Xbox. Although I did struggle with that controller initially, but I'm getting on with it now.
Good. In the original PS3 version, you just had to read stuff.
Right, yeah.
Those recordings, you had to stop and read them in a menu. There was an audio commentary. There was the ability to just watch the cutscenes. Remastered featured improved graphics and rendering upgrades, including increased draw distance, a higher frame rate, draw distance, and a higher frame rate and advanced audio options. It includes the previously downloadable content, including Left Behind and some of the multiplayer maps. The development team aimed to create a true remaster which maintained the core experience. The Last of Us Part 1, a remake of The Last of Us, was released for PlayStation 5 on September 2nd, 2022, and is scheduled for release on Windows on March 28th, 2023. So very soon. Yep. Part 2 is already. Oh no, sorry, that's the Part 1 remake. I don't know if the original is.
Would it work on my computer?
Well, this one's coming out. Yeah, Windows in March this month.
Should I get it?
Well, you're Amiga.
Yeah. You should get it.
Should I get it on Steam?
Yeah. Why not?
Yes.
Do it. Can you not tell that it is good?
Can you play with mouse and keyboard?
Yes, if it's on
probably.
PC, you must be able to.
Knowing you and your
No,
mouse.
they've made it for PC and it's controller only.
Yeah. That's due March 28th. So this was a full-on remake with features revised gameplay and controls, improved performance and lighting effects, and new accessibility options. On PS5, the game supports 3D audio as well as the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers of the DualSense controller. The game is completely rebuilt to take advantage of the updated PS5 hardware, requiring new art direction, animation, and character models. So they look a lot more like...
Have you got it?
No, I haven't played it yet.
Are you going to get it?
Probably, but I didn't want to pay 70 quid for it.
It's how much?
It's a joke, isn't it?
New PS5 games are disgusting. I've only bought one brand new, and that was that was Gran Turismo.
Xbox.
I bought Gran Turismo 7 for
You're having
70.
a laugh.
I bought Gran Turismo 7 for 70 quid the day it came out. It's the only game I bought new.
Oh my god!
I mean, I've got my money's worth, I suppose, but it's still just
honestly,
incredibly.
you go. Same on Xbox. So we're both guilty of it. You go and you look at the new games, and you click in, and more often than not, you'll get 3 versions or 4 versions.
Oh, yeah, plus your
and then
deluxe,
like the deluxe
premium
versions with some extra DLC and stuff like that. I'm not joking. I've seen games for 100, 120 quid.
Oh, it's mad. It's mad. I was about to mention that.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Technological and graphical enhancements were intended to align with the vision of the original game's development team. They wanted each element to make the player feel grounded and immersed in the game world. Reaction to the remake's announcement were mixed, with some journalists and players considering it unnecessary due to the age of the original. Due to the age of the original, the existence of the PS4 remaster, and questioning its $70/pounds.
That is
price
fair,
point.
That's a fair.
It's a fair, yeah. I mean,
fair,
so this is the thing. I would like to play it, but having already played the remaster and knowing the story, I was loath to pay £70. But
Yeah.
and there's been a big debate around that. Like, this isn't a remaster; it's a full-on remake. They've spent several years making it. But again, it's choice, isn't it? I'll play it when it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean,
Remake is and yes, Resident Evil 2 remake follows a lot of the beats of the game, but it's a different game.
It's a different
But
game,
this
man.
isn't a different game. It's going to have some nice enhancements.
that's a bit cheeky asking.
It's going to have
$70,
some nice enhancements, but it is
is
essentially the
What
same
else could they have been doing with their time and developing a brand new game, please?
What do I play then? What would you recommend?
Oh, if it's not too stupidly expensive, play that new one on the
But my
PC.
PC is good, but
But
it's not amazing.
they're going to charge 70 quid for that.
But I
okay.
don't know if you can get the original version on PC though.
PC ones tend to normally be
Yeah.
a little bit cheaper, don't they?
Do investigate.
Dylan's checking.
And the
So,
Last of Us PC.
Reception. Now, normally we get some quotes and we get some, but the reception section on the Wikipedia page for
This
The
is
Last
nothing.
of Us
For some reason,
I think it had its own entry on. Like when you go to like when you like might be a music artist and it says like David Bowie's discography and it's got a separate page because there's so much.
Yeah, 'cause
it's like that.
Wow.
So reception, we'll go through it quickly. So its aggregate score for the original game on Metacritic, 95 out of 100.
Obs.
Review scores.
Obs.
CVG, 10 out of 10.
Obs.
Edge, 10 out of 10. Eurogamer,
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Game Informer,
10 out of 10.
9.5 out of 10.
They suck.
Thank you very
They
much.
suck.
GameSpot,
10 out of 10.
8
They're
out of 10.
They're having a laugh.
IGN, 10 out of 10. PlayStation Official Magazine, obviously 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
2 out of 10.
Yeah. You can see that. It's in giant letters. Everything was praised.
Do you want the good news or bad news regarding the PC release?
Oh, go on.
Oh, no.
Good news.
Good news is it's not 70 quid.
Bad
news is it's 50 quid.
Will it run on my PC? Yes or no?
What's its spec?
We need your
I don't know what my specs are.
we need your exact spec.
I don't even know
now.
my specs.
I don't know. Sometimes they don't put it on here, do
Keith,
they? On
just-
Steam?
just
here we go. So, minimum. You need.
This is useful for people who might want to play it.
Yeah, so we need to break the news. So,
consumer
you
advice.
need at least Windows 10 standard. You need at least an AMD Ryzen 5 1500X, or that's equivalent to an Intel Core i7 47. Do you know what Intel?
No,
we got?
I don't know what I've got.
You know what?
I
Okay.
forget now.
You need 16 gigabytes of RAM, and you need for the graphics. You need at least a 4 gig graphic
I
card.
think I've got 8 gig.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's the minimum.
With the processor.
So that's the
Twice as
minimum.
good.
And then the recommended is 8 gig. I think you'd be all right. Just double check your processor.
Check what processor you got.
Check what
It's an
processor.
Mouse
i7
and
fairly
keyboard.
hefty.
Get ready, baby.
Get a controller. Get an Xbox controller.
Look at this guy. Get a controller. I played Rocket League with a mouse. And
It won't have,
keyboard.
Oh,
it won't have the flashlight click on it, but hey.
Yeah. Yeah. Does your keyboard have a speaker?
Leon.
Yes, everything was praised. The graphics, the story. I think we've touched on a lot. The graphics, the story, the performances.
Yeah.
But also other things. Its portrayal of female characters. There's no highly sexualized characters in this game. Obviously Ellie's a child, but Tess and Marley.
Yeah.
It's realism. They look how you would imagine people looked in this kind of world.
Which is right.
Yeah. Also, it's portrayal of LGBT characters.
Yep.
Especially once you played the Left Behind DLC, it kind of fills in the fact that Ellie is a lesbian.
Well, I didn't even know it was there, so great. I'm going to go play it now. Great.
And obviously Bill's,
yeah.
sexuality is dealt with kind of quite delicately. And it's a lot of praise. I mean, I could read endless quotes from reviews, but if you want to, there's tons of it online. If you want to read like the contemporary reviews from when it originally came out and stuff.
Can I put the slightest of spannerism?
Oh no!
Yeah, go on.
Spanner it.
Why is this game so bad?
Spanner
If you
it.
can dodge a spanner.
You can dodge a ball.
Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, the only, and this is probably more true of the fact I've only done like half the game, so it's probably the first half of the game, and it's feeling less so. But it did feel at the beginning a little bit linear.
It
to a
is.
degree.
But it is.
It is. The whole game
Yeah,
is
it's not an
linear.
open world game.
No, I wasn't expecting
So-
open world. I was there was just certain.
Or you
areas
feel
where
you feel
thought-
like you're being led down a path.
I just thought that at certain areas
all is.
it was very tight. You know, it was
Yeah.
very right. Go through this door.
Yeah.
Go
That's
up these
fair,
stairs.
I
And I'm like,
suppose.
and apparently there's some vague
There are some
opinions.
bits where you can explore a bit
yeah.
more, and
Oh no! And
Yeah.
again, as I go on, it's better and better, and that's the whole point. As you go on, there's more and more to look at,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
explore, and that's a good development of a good game. But there's just certain points where I wouldn't necessarily have expected. When you've got the gardens and you've got like the streets and you've got and there's certain places you're
basically
absolutely have to
funneled
go.
through.
Yeah,
I do know what you mean. Yeah,
there's not. They could have quite easily made a couple of different ways to go to the same place, just to open
Yeah,
up a
yeah,
little
that's
bit.
fair, that's
but
fair.
it's by no means is that kind of does that affect the
Yeah,
game
yeah.
at all. I just thought that in my mind, and I know there's a little bit of opinion on that, not much, but there's some people that said, having played the second game now, so both games, apparently, there's a lot of people that say that gets addressed a bit more in the second one, where it's a bit more free to do to other things. Whereas in the first one, it's very much, it is a bit more linear.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's
But
fair.
It's not so much a criticism. It's just probably the fact that based on other games I've played,
You've noticed it.
that
Yeah,
it
I don't
feels
think
different to me,
I don't think
so-
I noticed it when I first played it.
I noticed
Because you
it and
get
I like
so
it.
swept along by the
thing is-
story, and it's very.
because it feels like to me when I played it the proper time round, I liked it because a lot of those buildings are massive. Obviously, a lot of those flooded buildings, they're massive, and I kind of like that it pushed you in the right directions because I don't.
It would
like
be easy to
wandering
get
around.
lost.
Yeah, and I'm getting lost and stuff.
That's where it's
and
different. And I suppose
That's why I like because it's a story-driven thing. I was like, make it linear. That's fine. I've had my issues with linearity in the past. Some Final Fantasy spring to mind, but this one I thought it was like, that's exactly how it should be. I think.
it's looking at it, kind of talking about it now. It probably is because of the other survival horror games.
Yeah, I mean,
for example, things like Dying Light. I don't know if anyone's played Dying Light.
No, I've heard of it.
I'm playing through the
Heard
second
of.
one now. It's anything but linear.
Yeah.
In fact, it forces you almost. There is no linear.
Yeah.
Things like State of Decay, which is again a very different type of game. Again, definitely not linear.
Yeah,
But this is the thing. I can't really compare it because it's not the same type of game,
and I think it's great to try and it's so universally praised. It's good to try and look at it critically and come up with things that maybe
it's
aren't.
an observation
aren't
more than a
perfect.
criticism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you can do both. Like I mentioned, the first Red Dead and the second one. What a story!
Oh,
what a great
man.
main story!
Yeah.
But you could spend all day fishing if you want.
Yeah.
And there's so much exploring and other stuff you can do. Whereas this is like laser focused on guiding you through the story, which is just a different way of doing it.
It's not dampened the experience of the game.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
sitting there going, "Well, that's a problem."
Yeah.
It's just
You can do
versus
both,
my
but, yeah.
gaming experience.
Druckmann.
Oh, do you want to come on our podcast? By the way,
poor
Mr. Druckmann?
guy.
Neil Druckmann's not coming
Poor
near
bloke.
us. So it was widely regarded as one of the greatest games of all time. Needless to say, it cleaned up at all the awards games awards in 2013. Full list of that are online. Having said that, it was only the second highest rated game of 2013 on Metacritic. Can you guess what was number
Corey in the
one?
house.
Not Corey.
Naturally.
Not Corey in the house. The best-selling game of the highest rated game of 2013. We've talked about it before.
On a
Gears of
podcast.
War.
On a podcast, no. 2013.
Is it something I like?
Oh,
Yeah,
Is it something I like?
it can't be GTA 5.
of course it's GTA 5. It's always GTA 5.
Every year it's GTA 5.
Yeah, well, that was the year it came out. So that was
10 years.
that was the highest rated game of 2013 on Metacritic.
Oh, it's just so predictable,
Yeah.
isn't it?
The remaster was universally praised. It's brilliant. That's how I played it. The remakes had mostly positive reviews despite the mixed reaction when it was announced. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I will. Sales. Within 7 days of its release, The Last of Us sold over 1.3 million units, which became the biggest launch of a video game in 2013 at the time. 3 weeks after its release, it had sold 3.4 million units and was deemed the biggest launch of an original game since 2011's L.A. Noire. And it was the fastest selling PS3 game of 2013 at the time. This record was later beaten by
GTA 5.
Thank you. The
Boring.
Last of Us ultimately became the 10th best-selling game of 2013. However, in the UK, the game remained at the top of the charts for 6 consecutive weeks, which matched records that were normally only set by multi-platform games. Of course, it was only PlayStation at the time. Yeah. Within 48 hours of its release, The Last of Us generated more than the $3 million earned by Man of Steel in the same period. The film came out that year.
That doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise because Man of Steel is so boring.
The game also topped the charts in the United States, France, Italy, Ireland, the Netherlands, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark, Spain, and Japan. The Last of Us is one of the best-selling...
I like that you said that in Street Fighter.
Thank you, Japan. The Last of Us is one of the best-selling PS3 games, and Remastered is among the best-selling PS4 games. It tells its own story.
Yeah.
By August 2014, the game had sold 8 million copies, 7 million on PS3 and 1 million on PS4. By April 2018, it had sold 17 million copies across both consoles. It was estimated that by the end of 2019, that was well over 20 million copies. Now, just for fun...
Ouch.
Here's Wikipedia's latest list of the biggest selling games of all time.
Go on then.
So I thought we'd just do a few. There's like 50 games, but so what do you think is the biggest selling game of all time? Doesn't include free to play games.
GTA 5.
Minecraft. It's got to be.
Got it in one.
Yeah.
Minecraft.
Would you
It's
like
gotta
to
be.
guess how many units?
More than people on the planet? No, I don't
Not
know.
quite.
300 million.
238 million.
Man, I wish I'd made that
It
game.
surprises me, but it doesn't.
Would you like to guess what number 2 is?
GTA 5.
GTA 5.
Yeah!
175 million.
I wish I'd made that game.
Third place, Tetris. 100 million.
Love Tetris. Love
Fourth
Tetris.
place, Wii Sports.
Wii Sports.
82.9 million.
Yeah.
Fifth place, PUBG Battlegrounds.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
75
Snore.
million.
Yeah.
Then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe
Brilliant.
/ Deluxe. So that's probably 2 versions.
And Deluxe, yeah, because you got
Can't
8
forget
on
the Wii U
Yeah,
version.
60 million.
2 of them.
you turned
Super
yours on yet?
Mario Bros.
No.
The next though is the original Super Mario Brothers, 58 million.
Wow.
There you go.
Then Red Dead 2, 50 million, and then Pokemon Red, Green, Blue, Yellow, 47 million.
So where is Last of Us?
The Last of Us does not make that top 50.
Oh!
It's
So
51.
at the bottom
what
of
I thought
this
you
list,
said.
no.
You've gone, we're going to look at Wikipedia's top 50. Last of Us
I
comes
just
in
thought
at
out of
49.
interest, it doesn't
Yeah.
quite make it. So the bottom of this list is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, 22.7 million. Not as many as Nintendogs or the original Sonic the Hedgehog,
Hey!
which sold 23.9 million units.
Wow.
Massive numbers. Well, then Minecraft doesn't surprise me.
The legacy of The Last of Us has spawned a media franchise. Back when the game was released, there was a comic book miniseries called The Last of Us American Dreams, published by Dark Horse Comics. That was written by Druckmann and illustrated by Faith Erin Hicks.
Yeah.
Something else that you should watch if you're a big fan, the game's cast performed a live reading of selected scenes in Santa Monica, California in July 2014
Nice.
with live music by Gustavo Santaolalla. I've seen it. It's on YouTube. Again, highly recommended
Wicked.
to see them act it out live.
Yeah, I'm going to have a look at all of that. And the document...
Grounded. The
documentary's on the disc, isn't
It's on the disc, but it's also on YouTube, so
Okay.
whatever's easiest. A sequel, The Last of Us Part 2, was released for PlayStation 4
And teaser.
in June 2020.
We're going to get to
We're going to
do
talk
that
about that.
before 300.
Yep. 2 tabletop games are in development. The Last of Us, Escape the Dark.
I kind of want to get it. Well, you know how much I love board games.
Yeah, by
So-
Themeborn during December
Ludicrous.
2023. And The Last of Us, the board game by Common, focusing on exploration, narrative, and survival elements. 2 film adaptations of The Last of Us were attempted. A feature film written by Druckmann and produced by Sam Raimi entered development hell, and an animated short film adaptation by Oddfellows was cancelled by Sony. But of course, eventually, Druckmann and Craig Mazin, who was behind the Chernobyl series, if you've seen that, which was fantastic, they created a television adaptation of the game starring Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, which debuted on HBO and HBO Max in January 2023.
I mean, Pedro, are we going to chat about the show?
We can just a little bit. This is basically
I think Pedro
the
Pascal
end.
is a great choice.
I love
Joel.
Pedro Pascal.
How can you not love
great.
that guy?
He's so great in everything he's in.
I don't think he was like when it was first announced. I don't think it was like all arms, all embracing everybody. I think there was mixed reaction.
Everyone had their own, fan casting, don't they?
Yeah.
I think there were some people who wanted Hugh Jackman,
Right.
but they were looking for people who, if they grew a beard, would they look like Joel?
They look like Joel. Yeah.
They should have got Stallone. Can you imagine?
Well, they were.
Oh no, Adrian!
Oh, he's bored. He's bored. He hasn't had much to say.
yeah.
I feel
Oh, no,
sorry.
sorry, dude.
Let
He will next
him
time.
have it. Let him have it.
One of the favourites, I think, and it was exactly down to it was more the look than anything else.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I do happen to think he's a decent actor as well. He's the guy from Game of Thrones. Who Nicholas?
What's his name?
Walderlau,
Nick
or whatever his
Costa
name is.
Waldau. He did a film a couple of years ago. I think it's called The Silencing. He basically plays Joel.
Oh wow!
He's this bloke who lives in the woods on his own. He wears a plaid shirt.
Yeah.
He's got the beard, and he looks a lot like him.
Oh, okay. There
And
you
he's
go.
kind
A
of
lot
a
like him,
similar
yeah.
character as well. And I was
He's a good
like,
actor as well.
yeah,
He's a really
he's
good actor,
decent.
but
So if you were going for the look, then he probably would have been it. But I think
hashtag
Pedro
Pedro
Pascal's smashed it, as the kids say.
so is Bella Ramsey.
Smashed
She's
it.
really good. Yeah.
And again, I
Bella
don't-
Ramsey's
you know,
fantastic.
People were not. She's great.
But yeah, so there's we talked about it. There's been a lot of differences, but it's interesting because you've got people like James, not many, who are playing through the game and the series simultaneously. You've got people like my wife, like your Mrs. Dill, who've never played the game.
Nope.
But are
But they're loving the
experiencing the show.
programs,
It's
exactly.
funny as well, though, because there's some people as well, and this is just because they're a bit jaded by post-apocalyptic TV shows. Because I can imagine if you've got no knowledge of the game, no experience of the game, you look at it and you go, this is just like The Walking Dead. Oh, look, there's a group that don't like this group and they're fighting. So I get that. But then for me, obviously, as a fan of the game, I've just really enjoyed seeing the differences and how they've done this bit and have they kept my favourite bit in. And then they've done that bit word for word. That's exactly what they say in the game and stuff like that. So I've really enjoyed it. I think it's been really well done.
Yeah.
It's clever how they've not done too much fan service though. Because I think we've said this a number of times before where we've gone, oh, have you seen the latest, have you seen this film or that TV show or whatever that's about a game?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we mentioned it about like the Resident Evil Netflix.
The show. Oh, God.
And you were like, it was just all fan service. It was basically just ticking all the
yeah,
boxes. Like,
but it was still terrible.
Yeah, but there was
It was too close, wasn't
no
it? So the game was like,
imagination.
none of this makes any sense
Yeah.
unless you've played the game.
Yeah.
Whereas at least like The Last of Us makes sense.
It's a coherent story.
It's a
isn't it? And
coherent
plot.
story
Yeah.
that's like, why are they in this police station? Why is that?
Yeah.
What?
Why are you putting the red gem in the blue door?
yeah.
What do you think about the one with Kaya Scodelario in it?
That's
the
the
one,
movie.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Welcome to
I'm like,
Raccoon
oh
City.
my God, this is
it was
guff.
bad, man.
Yeah. But amazing for me, but not amazing for anyone who didn't know
No.
Resident Evil 1,
No.
2 and 3
No.
mushed together.
It's easy to do that, I suppose, isn't it? If you're developing something about a game.
Just do
It
it.
would
You
count.
just go,
yeah,
let's do the game.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But then, like you say, if someone
But they
sits
didn't even
down-
do that though, did they? They just
Resident
did random
Evil.
bits of some of the games.
Resident Evil
It was,
could be done so well
Yeah.
as
Agreed.
one movie.
Agreed.
of course.
If someone just did it. Someone just did it. Druckmann!
Man. Oh dear.
Poor guy.
So, final thoughts. I mean, I haven't got a lot to say other than what we've already said, and that is, if you haven't played it, find a way to play it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of the best single-player narrative-driven games ever.
And it has a sequel that's even bigger.
And it has an amazing sequel, which we will talk about. So yeah, I mean, I can't recommend it enough. You know,
Same.
for a video game and video game story to move me in that way, I was blown away. And like I say, it kind of it dragged me back into gaming in terms of like, wow, are there other games like this where I can experience a story, but also have lots of cool gameplay and you know. So yeah, I absolutely love it. Dill?
Mate, I'm just really love it.
You glad I nagged you about it now?
Yeah. Sometimes your nagging pays off. I mean,
Sometimes, not often.
it's rarely. But no, I think like the game's fantastic. I think that the show's also fantastic. It's just, thanks Naughty Dog for bringing it into our lives.
Yes. Thank you, Druckmann.
Thank you, Drunk Man.
James?
So I think
Now that we
I've just-
spoiled the entire plot of
Yeah,
both
thanks.
the games.
Oh, James made some notes. James got
I've
some
only
notes.
got a couple.
okay. No, cool.
I've said a couple of bits
Yeah,
already.
here we
But I think one of the things that is most important is at a time, and we're talking when was it originally out?
2013.
2013. So at a time when the multiplayer craze was going absolutely ballistic.
I think that's why they spent the time adding the multiplayer, by the way.
Yeah. But what I'm going to say is
Oh, go on.
the market needed
A game like this.
strong story-driven single-player campaign, because the amount of times I see stuff on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, on my journeys around the various pages, and there's so many people crying out for really good quality, well done, well produced, good score, etc.
Yeah.
Single player, story driven games. And they say that there's just been this massive chasm left open, but because there aren't as many anymore. And 2013 was, again, a lot of stuff was coming. All your Call of Duties, and you had all
Of course, yeah,
and
every
it was
year.
all about getting online, talking trash, shooting people.
Yeah.
Well, and they came out and went, right, fine. What we're going to do is do something completely immersive, single player, that is going to kind of get you invested in all the characters, etc. Which is quite bold, but I think is exactly what the market needed. That's one thing that is kind of painfully obvious to me. The other thing I've put down as well, it doesn't necessarily most of the time feel like a game.
Right.
I know that sounds odd, but to me, it feels like I'm playing something a lot more cinematic.
Yeah.
I'm almost playing a film. Okay, fine, it came out on the PS3.
It's sort of
yes.
leaning towards that Heavy Rain.
Yeah, I mean, Heavy Rain was a lot of
And
busy work and
Detroit
quick time
stuff.
events.
But that's
and,
the thing, isn't it? Exactly. So it's basically like that, but detached a bit, and as like an action.
And
game,
it's
but
got
you're
some action,
following
yeah.
a story. Like you have to follow
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah.
I like it. I just think it works.
Yeah, it didn't feel overly busy in terms of like icons and head up displays.
No, the HUD's quite minimal, isn't it?
Yeah, it
which
just
does help the immersion and
exactly a lot more about the visuals and the sound and everything like that, which they've used perfectly.
Which
But
IK's got no.
That's got no HUD at all, is it?
nothing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why it's quite.
that's probably what you said. With the
Yeah, it might have
influence.
inspired that. Yeah, that clear sort of no gamey stuff.
Yeah, definitely. The only other points I put are about it, dealing with kind of interpersonal, relationships as opposed to just the threat. The threat isn't just the infected. The threat, in fact, the bigger threat potentially is how bent and twisted and crazy people get, and all the groups and how nasty and horrible and all that sort of stuff. And we've said it, but that's another kind of the threat, the clickers and whatever. They're not necessarily the biggest threat.
No.
It's people, but and the last one that I've put on it is that surprised me when I first found out. You can just die straight away.
Of course, yeah.
Bang! Oh,
yeah.
dead.
Just like
Hang
that.
on, there's the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to go back. I think we said that earlier.
Save it a lot.
Yeah.
Save.
Yeah.
Save.
Save. Auto save. Right, save again.
Yeah.
The auto save doesn't do it. No, save.
But that's another surprise.
Yeah.
And again, that kind of gives you a little bit more of the realism.
Yeah,
Because
I don't think we talked about it much, but yeah, like the combat, especially when you get hand to hand, is very visceral.
Yeah.
Like you
I like
you can
the-
feel the punches.
the cameras all over
and when
the
they
place,
get
isn't
hold
it?
of you as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
I like the stealth stuff and giving the old shiv, and that's very satisfying.
It is,
Obviously,
yeah.
we'll speak about how
Return of the
the
Shiv.
sequel.
Yeah, it gets more brutal, doesn't it?
It gets
The
more
sequel,
brutal than
yeah.
that. But yeah, I just love it. It's
Yeah.
like, it's a very satisfying,
Now there's a word.
gameplay. Satisfying game to
Yeah.
play. It is a satisfying game.
Shiv in
to
a
play.
clicker. There's
Shiv in a
That's it,
clicker.
that's it.
pipe in a clicker. But yeah, it's from what I've seen and played so far, and as I say, I'm kind of pre-ambush.
Yeah, I
or
think you're
about
sort of
ambush.
almost halfway through the game by the sounds of it.
Which
Yeah,
is good. That's about my
Yeah, I
right.
think so.
And then TV show is I've got the fade to black after Joel's been stabbed with the baseball.
yes.
So what I am looking forward to is kind of going now into it now.
Yeah,
You got some good stuff coming.
Yeah,
up.
oh, yeah.
And, yes, fine, I know it, but it's for me, I need to sort of reconcile that by watching it and playing it.
Yeah.
Because for me, hearing it is not enough. I don't
Yeah.
care if I get a spoiler. I need to kind of experience it firsthand.
Yeah.
For me, that's going to kind of give me the,
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. I really am.
Oh,
So,
good.
And I appreciate.
I'm glad
the,
you're enjoying it.
the loan.
You're very welcome, mate.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. Aid,
Aid, what are your thoughts
what are your
on Last of
thoughts?
Us?
Not enough boats.
So as you can see, as far as I'm aware, there was no rowboat scene.
And the rowboat was actually from Last of Us Part 2, and then obviously, like, Adrian hasn't played
Adrian's
that.
travelled through time again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to play it.
Do you want to play it?
Yeah, I do want to
now
play
we've
it.
raved
I wanna
about
play
it
it.
for
For
what feels like 3 hours.
50 quid is your price.
Yeah, I might treat myself.
Yeah, do
Try
it.
try other outlets rather than Steam to get that key, because you might be able to get it cheaper than
Other
50.
sellers are available.
Other sellers.
I mean, it's been
are
out since.
available.
When's it coming on Switch?
No,
That's
yeah,
what I
sorry,
wanna
that's March.
So this
isn't
is
it?
the pre-purchase of the of
Yeah,
the
it's not
ground
out
up
till the
one,
end of March.
which hopefully your PC will.
Yeah, it won't be
play.
coming out on Switch 8. So,
But yeah, wicked.
so we're definitely going to cover.
200 Game of the Year awards.
Is that all?
Oh, that's all.
I didn't know there was that many.
I
Game of
expected
the
more.
Year
I won't
awards.
play them.
Yeah, it's only got 200. You know, you want to make an even 3.
So we're definitely going to cover part 2 before the 300.
Thanks for already signing up to make the notes on that one, Keith.
Me?
Yeah, you're doing the notes on that one, aren't you? You're doing that one. So.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. You're much better at this.
You need to play it.
You're much
finish
better at
it.
this.
Finish it.
Oh God, yeah, I've got to finish it.
I might have to lend it to James before I get my PS4
Yes.
back then, so that he can play it.
Defo.
Yes,
Gonna have some work cut up. Mind you, we've got a few months with me. Yeah, we do that.
Looking
Sweet.
forward to it.
I hope everyone's enjoyed that. Yeah, we'll be back soon with The Last of Us Part 2. Thanks for listening to today's podcast. We really hope you enjoyed it. You can tweet us at Arcade Attack UK. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcade Attack UK. Check out our website at arcadeattack.co.uk for lots more retro gaming goodness and to delve into our archives. Our podcasts are also available on Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a review and a rating, we'd really appreciate it. If you'd like to support Arcade Attack, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/arcadeattack, which will give you access to exclusive podcasts, interviews and other bonus content. So, until next time, take care and we'll speak to you soon.